Welcome back to the Opposition podcast, and our guest is just trying to join in. I don't know if you can hear him. Late as usual, but just some housekeeping rules to begin with. Episode 23. Rukshan, welcome back
Avi, what do you mean, welcome back? Welcome back
from
to what?
last week.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying that I went on a holiday or something again, but no, it's great to be back. Another episode of the Opposition podcast, and we have an interesting guest and a few interesting topics that I'm sure will get people a bit fired up, depending on their perspective. So it should be an interesting conversation today. If we can get our guest loaded up, because he is joining us.
I've got him. He's in the waiting room there. So we do have him.
Nice.
But some housekeeping. If you want to join in the comments, I will be adding him on screen. At the moment, it is set up for X, any of the YouTube channels, and Facebook. I think that's everywhere. So chuck your comment in there, and if it's good and if it's bagging out Rukshan, 100% it'll make it on screen. Catch up.
Someone is saying that they can't hear me. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yours is low. Yours is low, mate. We've tried to tell you, turn your volume up.
What about now?
All right, people will. I'm just going to put that old one up there. But while you're trying to figure out your sound, I'm going to bring on our our guest. Let me assign him guest 2. Welcome.
I think I've fixed my audio now. Should be better.
I think. Do we have? Look at this tonight. It's wild because Mr. Drew is he on number? Have we assigned him? Yeah, we've assigned him, so we can bring on. Let's see if we. There we go. We've got him in the middle.
Hey, how's it going?
There we go. All right.
Can you hear me?
His is loud and clear. What's happening, Drew?
Not much. Thanks for having me on. I know this is going to annoy so many people, so that's funny. I don't mind. It's very funny. Back in the day,
You've already annoyed Rukshan being so late.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to set up my tech thing. I recently started using a camera as a webcam, like as a sort of HDMI link thing. But I'm very slow with technology. But I was just going to say, it's very funny because Avi and I used to be avowed enemies. But look, National Socialist Network wishes he was dead. The Hamas guys wish he was dead. CCP supporters against him. Look, we actually have a lot more common ground than some people might think. So interesting. Let's discuss. Let's see where we agree, where we might differ. I think it's very important to be able to discuss with people all across the world and all across the political spectrum too.
Is everyone seeing the autofocus? I think you've got your autofocus on there, Drew. Is everyone?
Yeah. See, that's the thing. I'm a little bit retarded with.
It's all right. Don't worry. The good thing about this show is since Rukshan gave me over the the technical man, it's only been problems. We're going to sort it all out.
Rukshan, you're the tech guy. How do I get the autofocus thing off?
It's on the lens. On your lens, there's an autofocus button. We asked Benji. Right. He's from Hong Kong, so he probably made it.
Okay, well.
Can you guys hear me now?
What's he? Oh no, we're gonna end up on Drew's.
Wait, hang on, have we got it?
No, you haven't got it.
I don't know why. Hang on, sorry. I'm quite stupid sometimes with technology. Maybe Rukshan could give me a whole the tutorial sometime. I should have just kept it how it's going.
Avi, can you hear me, Avi?
Nah, you're no good, mate. Your volume is horrible. No, because we hear Drew perfectly, mate.
No, did you adjust?
You can still hear me.
Sorry, Rukshan?
Have you adjusted my volume individually or something?
Let me take a look for you. No, yours is way up. Yours is all the way up. Weird. I'll turn Drew down. Drew's just a mess with us right now. This has got to be the biggest flop of the start of a show. This is why we usually call our guests on 10 minutes early so they don't have problems like this. But look what Drew looks like. A lot of people would say that this is an improvement to Drew's face.
Oh, people would say that, you know, I'm getting funded by Masada or whatever. I don't even know how to work out my camera, but we'll work it out. We'll work it out at some point.
Dude asks tech challenged Indian for free tech support. I like that comment. What do you reckon, Rukshan?
Where are you from in India, Rukshan?
Ooh.
Oh, is he not from India? I don't know. I'm just like interested. I don't know.
Can you guys hear me now?
No, you're very soft, mate. You're very soft. Whatever you do.
I don't know. I don't know why it's so soft. I haven't changed anything. I'm just talking into the mic. It's so crazy.
I don't know what's going on tonight, but it looks like I'm the only one that's actually all right, and I'm.
Oh, I think I've got it. Hang on, have I got it?
This is the best episode yet. So our audience, guys, make a comment.
Wait, is this working? Hang on. Damn. Okay, I'm gonna ask some people for tech support after this. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm a little bit retarded at times.
I don't think we're gonna get I don't think we're gonna get paid this. Holy, what is going on? I think.
Can you?
Oh, there you go. Now that's too loud.
Am I better?
Way too loud now. Just turn it right.
Okay, but it's an improvement now.
Yes.
All right, let me put it down a little bit. All right, this is good fun.
Now we just need our guest to wake up.
I'm going to try one more thing. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to my webcam. I got the new camera. I thought it was going to look so nice. I'm very sorry, guys. I might need like Mossad to sort of like give me some tips sometime.
Yeah, there's actually a discount on pager phones at the moment.
Here, but here, I think Mariam Susli needs one of those. Syria girl. I heard she really needs some pager phones.
Hey, do you think she's watching this conversation, so she's logged in? I know she's a big fan of both of. She's a big fan of both. Is she? She's a big fan of both of you, so she might be watching.
Tell Syria girl that I want to deport her from Australia. She's an evil witch.
Look, at the rate you're going, I'm starting to think we're going to get rid of you, Drew. I think Syrian girl knows how to operate her camera phone.
Oh, I'm just going to use my webcam. This is so unfortunate. This is so unfortunate. I spent good money on a camera and everything. Does not work.
Hey, Avi, let's just start from the top. Let's just start like we just started the show from the start.
Okay, here. Look what we're gonna do.
Pretend like you guys didn't see anything. Yeah,
nothing happened. Welcome to episode 23 of the Opposition Podcast. You can catch up on every perfect show without any technical issues at the opposition.show. Rukshan, I haven't seen you in an entire week. How you been?
Yeah, I've been good, man. It's awesome to have another episode, another show with an interesting guest. Somewhat controversial guest on Twitter. I always see a bit of controversy following this guy, and he gets involved in all types of drama online. I think he's probably as bad as you when it comes to that kind of thing. So, should be quite interesting. And I'm guessing that both of you are probably going to take over the conversation because you both like to talk a lot of nonsense.
Okay, with that, let's bring on our guest, Drew Pavlou. Now, myself and Drew have a bit of a history. Let's just put it this way. In fact, hold on. I did a quick Google search to see if any of it wasn't scrubbed. Let's just.
Was it? I don't know. Was it?
Just you sit down 1 second. We'll
It's quite funny.
Here we go, Drew.
Oh no! Why haven't we? I don't use Facebook anymore. That's the problem.
There we go. Okay. So what have we got? In December of 2019. Now this was.
Years old. I was 20 years old and I was basically a mentally ill.
Well, you're going to get your chance to defend yourself. Hold on. December 2019. This was during the Hong Kong protests, and at that time, Drew, you were pretty active within that space, and so was I. I think I became quite prominent because I was debating mainland Chinese people on the streets in Melbourne, and then I went over to Hong Kong. It was like my first stints with Rebel from the protest.
Hang on, my camera's working now. Beautiful. Who would have known?
Look at that.
Hey, Avi, zoom into the text if you can, so we can read it a bit clearer.
Yeah, hold on.
Oh my god, I think of myself as so retarded.
How do you zoom in on what's is it Shift Plus? It should be
Command Plus.
Command Plus.
By the way, Rukshan and Avi.
Yeah.
Perhaps can you add me as a host on Twitter or something like that, and I can get some of my followers in too.
Host on Twitter.
It's
I don't know
not.
if
too late.
They're just
Too-
separate ones, so you just have to either
Too late now.
retweet whichever one is there. I don't know how to zoom in on this one. Oh, here, view. I can probably zoom in here.
Yeah. Just so everyone
I know,
at home
I know,
following
I
along
know,
can see.
It should be on view. On view. Do you see zoom?
Z-
Zoom in.
Zoom in.
Yes, view zoom here. We'll go right in. So it's actually saying it should be. It's just the problem is this keyboard's different, so it doesn't really. I'll go right in. Okay, so there we go. This is
That's
I don't
better.
know, that's like really. I don't know who it's more. Anyway, so here we go. So
I'm literally laughing so much.
yeah, it's pretty funny now. So at the time, I think Drew kept. I think there was a bunch of posts that he made that he was telling Hong Kongers not to follow me, but he kept writing like really.
Look,
Like
I was
every
repeating all the
lefty.
repeating all the standard lefty attack lines on Avi. Look, I was retarded then. I was 20 years old. I was getting all these people going.
Hold
like,
on, we didn't say it was
Okay,
your
you go, you
defense.
go,
It
you
was
go.
first is the allegation, and so then
Okay.
he posted like everything the lefties used to do, and I thought, all right, I'll text this kid because I actually looked at what he was doing with the Hong Kong stuff, and I thought, good on him. Like, he seems genuine about the issues. He's like really fighting. He cares about it, and he's a bit of a lefty, but whatever. And then he like went on these hate rants about me that was just repeating all the same stuff you still hear today. And I thought, I'll text him. And then he did this post where he was like, this tough guy, free speech warrior, Avi Amini response to a 20-year-old uni student's tweets criticizing him. Fucking come at me. I took on the Chinese state, so I'm scared. I'm not scared of some fucking YouTuber. And I was like, and then I remember there was like something about like sue me or what. It's like, I thought, anyways, but defense, go.
Okay, look, I'll explain to you what happened. When I first started out the protest in July 2019 against the CCP, I was getting so much, I was getting just viciously attacked by the socialist alternative, the Trotskyists, all the lefties going, Drew Pavlou is a white supremacist, is a right-wing racist, blah, blah,
For
blah.
the Hong Kong stuff.
Yeah, for the Hong Kong stuff. And I was literally like full-on lefty at that time. I was like, I would have thought of myself as a socialist. I loved Bernie Sanders.
I know you used to go to the Palestinian rallies because I
used to literally go to a Palestine rally. So I was like way more lefty then, and all these people trying to go, oh, Drew, he's far right, he's evil, he's Nazi, blah 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 blah. And so like I was like, okay, I'll make my stand. I'll like take on Avi. I'll fight him. And that was just obviously very retarded. I think of it now as a beautiful moment of my retardation. It turns out when you're 20, you actually don't know everything. I think I know everything now because I'm 25. But look, back then I was just very dumb. I was very dumb. I was good on China. The one thing I was right about was China, but I just didn't realize at the time that all these socialists and university leftists that I thought I could suck up to. No, at the end of the day, they just wanted me dead. They literally always wanted me dead. No matter how much I attacked Avi Amini, no matter how much I tried to say to everyone, look, I'm lefty. They just wanted me fucking dead. And so eventually I worked it out. It took me quite a while, unfortunately, but after basically like a couple years of the far left, all the same people who back Hamas now, all the same people who are going into the streets and being mentally ill about Hamas and everything, these same people, they just all cheered every single time the Chinese government like tried to destroy my life. I got the bomb threat happening to me in the UK, spent a night in a prison cell as a terror suspect because basically the Chinese government framed me for an email saying, hello, this is Drew, bomb threat, blah, 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 to the Chinese embassy. And after all that happened, you know, my life was almost destroyed. And all these university socialists and lefty kids that I thought were my friends that I thought I could suck up to, no, in the end, they actually just wished I was fucking dead. And they wished they would all cheer it on. They laughed at, because look, at the end of the day, they see the world according to friend-enemy distinction, the far left. That's how they see it. So if you're not a Trotskyist, if you're not a communist, you're the enemy. We will have to destroy you. And eventually, after 3 or 4 years of these people saying, you're the enemy, we want to kill you, we want to destroy you, we will be so happy when the Chinese government like chop off your head and kill you. Eventually I'm like, actually, I'm not going to listen to everything that the stupid university activist left say anymore. I am actually going to realize that my path lies away from these mentally ill communists. And so, look, I would see myself as a centrist now. I would say that. I'm still very critical of like the far right. I really don't like the whole Tucker Carlson anti-Ukraine stuff. I really hate that because honestly, the way the world is right now, it's Russia, Iran, China. It's an axis of evil. They're fighting together to destroy Western civilization. That's essentially what it is. They want to destroy democracy. They want to destroy liberalism. And I quite like things like individual freedoms. I quite like the fact that I can say what I want. I quite like the fact that nobody has to, nobody can make me their slave and kill me. And these people want, that's what they want. They hate the West. They hate society. They hate civilization. A lot of them are just mentally ill. They've got problems with their dads. Like their dad doesn't love them, so they work that out by being a Hamas supporter and cheering on, Jews getting their heads chopped off. This is what they support. It's sick. It's fucked up. These people are mentally ill. And I eventually worked it out, and I'm like, okay, maybe I shouldn't just, gratuitously insult Avi Yemini every single day or go off on these big ranting, maybe I should hear people out. And especially after October 7, when that was a big wake-up call for me. That was a huge wake-up call for me because you had all the same people who constantly talk about Australia being a settler colony, all these same people who were like, destroy Australia, abolish Australia. All these same people were cheering it on when Hamas were raping and killing and murdering people, civilians. And then you went onto Twitter and you'd see like Hassan Piker, the biggest socialist on YouTube, biggest socialist, young progressive, going, babies can be settlers too. And this just woke me the fuck up. And I'm like, do I want to actually have anything to do with people who actually, what they want at the end of the day, what they crave is mass genocide against like basically Australia, America, every single European country. This is what they want. They hate the West so much. No, I hate that shit. I'm going to be on the side of people who are against terrorism. So this is how I find myself. This is how my politics have changed a bit over the years. And honestly, I would say I'm in a much better position now. It's a bit of a centrist position. I smash the far left every day on Twitter. I also fight with the far right. And look, the far right guys, like National Socialist Network, they hate Avi because Avi's Jewish. They wish he was dead. They wish I was dead because they even say that I'm Jewish somehow. I'm not Jewish. I'm Greek, but they call me Turkish. They say, Drew, you're brown, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be funny. They're going to look at their telegrams after this. They're going to have a massive meltdown. They're going to be like, oh, Rukshan, the brown guy, and Drew, the Turkish guy, and Avi, the Jew, they're all coming together to plot to destroy Israel. This is what the National Social Network's going to say after this. They're going to be like, wow, the Jewish conspiracy of Avi and Drew. And the far left are going to have a meltdown too, and they're going to be like, wow, oh my God, this is the new Nazism in Australia has emerged because three guys who are, actually ethnically ambiguous are talking about how Hamas is bad. So it's going to be funny. All the worst people on earth, the extreme left, the communists, and also the fascist Nazis, like they hate us. So good.
Well, it's actually funny because I think that you and I, obviously, we had our very public differences.
Yeah.
And I also do remember
I apologize for that. I was just retarded. I was literally just
but it's funny because at the time I remember even the Hong Kongers often were like, all right guys, just stop, we like you both. But after October 7, I guess that was the first time we properly connected, and we had a chat, and I said to you, I definitely don't have the same politics as you. You are much more left than I am. But what I realized after October 7 was that it's those of us in the middle. So the problem for many years is that the left, and not just the far left, but even the left, the centrist left, was so busy demonizing the other side and calling everyone far right, calling everybody a Nazi, that it lost all meaning. And so they put me in the same boat as the National Socialists, and they made it like
they want you dead because you're Jewish.
Yeah, but I'm saying that all those people at that time painted me as something that I wasn't. And so it became this. Now, since October 7, what I realized was that, which kind of makes you tribal, to be honest. Like even me, I became tribal because they placed me in a box. I'm like, well, if this is my box, I'm at least going to get on with my friends here. That's why I hung out with Rukshan, because he was the leader of the white supremacist local chapter. But then after October 7, seeing what was happening around to both ends, so the far left and the far right, and kind of how the horseshoe theory was proven completely right that these guys were literally making the same arguments. One was saying Zionist, the other one was straight up saying Jew. You know what? I prefer the far right because at least they're bloody honest about it. They say Jew. They get angry if you don't say Jew because even they recognize when you're avoiding the word, when you're saying Zionist or Frankist or whatever other pretend
shit.
whatever it is. But we all know who you're talking about, so at least have the guts to say, and that's what I appreciate in the far right is that they at least have the guts to say it straight up. And so then we had a conversation, and I said, you know what, like, we don't actually have to agree on everything. I've got a brother that probably shares a lot closer politics to you than me. And we also, since October 7, became a lot closer in the fact, I think our politics probably did come a bit closer just because we both realized that our sides, the fringes of our sides were actually our biggest enemies. And then also that there is a bit more nuance in the politics, and we can argue from today till forever, and as long as we can have the conversation respectfully, then it shouldn't matter.
And look, at the end of the day, what our unity ticket here is that terrorist groups shouldn't massacre and genocide every single Jew in the Middle East. I can probably basically get along with anyone who agrees with that. It's just crazy. Like, I can't say that for like all these socialists who hate Avi Yemini. I can't say that for all the fucking insane far right people like Candace Owens and stuff like that. They're on the unity ticket. They're all going to be. It's this crazy alliance of like extremist Islamists and like actual Nazis and then actual communists, and they all just have this insane obsession with Jews, and they think like the Jews are behind everything in the entire world. You stub your toe in the morning, it's the Jews. That's what they believe in.
We do control the media, but we're really bad at it because I get the worst
well, you
press.
Saw, I couldn't even turn my camera on, but but like, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we both disagree. I mean, we both disagree with people fucking having Hezbollah flags in the streets of Sydney and chanting like "Kaba Kaba Ya Yahud" and chanting for the massacre of Jews. We're both.
Hey, we're gonna get to all that because I want to talk about the upcoming protests and some of the legal issues around it, and especially how Australia as a country deals with this as well. Because I'm finding that our Prime Minister is having a very hard time. Penny Wong, what is she? The Foreign Secretary. What's her role? She's having a very difficult time as well articulating herself around what really Australia stands for. When when you need to have some type of moral clarity around these issues, you're finding that our leaders are wanting and unable to, basically condemn even the attacks that we saw very recently from Iran. Typically you'd find an Australian government very openly condemning those things, but today it's very kind of, they're careful the way they word things. It's interesting because all around the world, all the other Western leaders were very openly critical of that, but in Australia it's very different. So how do you think through this country itself has come to that point? Is it a Labor thing? Is it the Greens? Is it kind of far left? You're talking about these progressive ideas where they're kind of, diversity means accepting terrorism because we live in a multicultural society. Like, is that kind of what has come to now?
Oh, look, it is such a weird time right now politically. Like, I feel quite lost sometimes politically because, like, here's the thing, right? When it comes to Republicans and when it comes to Trump, one of my biggest disagreements is like they're talking like we need a peace deal with Russia, we need to stop the war, etc. But then I see the Democrats at the same time and they're saying like, let's not escalate against Iran. We have to have a peace deal with Iran and stuff like that. And I'm in this weird position where I'm like, do people realize at this point in time, Iran and Russia, they're tied together at the hip. They are backing every single terrorist attack against the West. They are they're just ideologically obsessed with trying to destroy the West. You can't have peace with Iran. You can't have peace with Russia because they're both trying to destroy the West. You can't have reason with a rabid dog. And so I see the Democrats trying to have like, the nuclear deal with Iran. And they're trying to say like, okay, you've killed Nasrallah, now completely withdraw and let Hezbollah rebuild itself so it can, launch 1 million more attacks at Israel. I'm like, that's crazy. But then I also see Trump and stuff like that. And they're saying, we just have to have peace with Russia. I'm like, but that's the same type of mistake that the Democrats are making with Iran and with Hezbollah and Hamas. So I'm in this position where like, look, my stance is like, and this is the thing that probably is more important to me than like, domestic politics. It's foreign policy. I genuinely think there's this axis of China, Russia, Iran. They're working together. They've got this long-term goal of trying to destroy like democracy, trying to destroy all these liberal countries around the world. They hate democracy. They hate democratic freedoms. They will just not stop at anything until, eventually they kill millions of people. This is what's happening. And it's very hard because both sides of politics, they've got their blind spots. Like the left is really, really, really blind when it comes to Iran. Like, let's just do a deal with let's do a deal with the mullahs. Oh my God, we can just do a nuclear deal, and then suddenly everything's going to be fine. When they had the nuclear deal, when Obama signed the nuclear deal, all the increased oil revenues that Iran got was directed towards launching terror attacks at Israel, directed towards Hezbollah, directed towards Hamas. So that's where the left has a massive blind spot. They've just got a massive blind spot when it comes to extremist Islam. They don't realize that it's actually its own separate ideology. And it's a very dangerous ideology. And honestly, it's basically a fascist ideology, extremist Islamism. Like, I'm not talking about just, standard religious faith here. I know lots of normal Muslims, lots of reasonable, rational Muslims. I'm talking about the extremist Islamists. And unfortunately, they've got power in Iran. They've got power across a massive part of the Middle East. And they're constantly launching terror attacks all across the world. And it's just this massive blind spot on the left where you can't criticize it because everyone's more worried about Islamophobia. And there's that amazing, hilarious Norm Macdonald tweet where he's like, my biggest concern in the world is if ISIS were to launch nuclear bombs that would set off all these nuclear bombs across the eastern seaboard of America and kill 50 million people. Imagine the backlash against peaceful, ordinary Muslims. That's the Norm Macdonald joke about, the left stands towards Islam.
It's true.
They actually don't care about the victims of terrorism. A hideous terror attack takes place, and then the first instinct is don't criticize the terrorists. Don't criticize political ideology that's separate to Islam, and it's an extremist ideology. And I think the left is so blind on that. And I wish as well people could see that it is very similar as well. Like, the Russians almost have a jihadi mindset themselves.
So this is where I think we talked about this over the phone a bit. Like I think people conflate on both sides, or too often mix the Russia-Ukraine to, let's say, Iran and Israel. It is true what you say when you say that there is an axis of evil, which includes Russia, Iran, North Korea, China. And that is a real threat to us in the West, right? But the threat of Russia to Ukraine is not the threat of Iran to Israel. Completely different things driving it. I think when you look at Iran, it is and their proxies, it is the Islamist ideology, which we can go through that as to why, but it is literally fundamentalist Islam, whether it's Shia or Sunni, doesn't matter. Yeah. They both share. One thing you notice, and one thing that was brought out very strongly, was highlighted in the attack on Hezbollah when they took out Nasrallah. You saw that if you follow this closely, you would have seen online that Sunnis and Shias were fighting online.
Yeah, I saw that. I did see that, actually.
So when it comes to each other, they hate each other, and a lot of Sunni terrorists were happy that Nasrallah was taken out because he's killed.
There's a guy in West Sydney who's like literally an ISIS preacher. His name's Wissam Haddad, and he literally was posting on Twitter
celebrating.
Yeah, he was celebrating. And he's
I watch it. I follow it closely. Obviously, I care, and so if you understand how it all works, you kind of get what's going on. So now, but one thing that they all agree on is their hate for Israel. In fact, a lot of the people that were commenting about happy that Nasrallah is gone, they said the one thing he did good was his fight with Israel. So you've got to understand there is a difference there between what
I'd say though.
Having said that, hold on, let me finish. Having said that, I remember when I first spoke to you, one of the positions when Russia and Ukraine kicked off, I personally look at the Ukrainian government as a corrupt government, right? I don't have much respect for that government. Having said that, I am certainly no Putin fan. Putin is the enemy still. He is the enemy to the West. He is the enemy to democracy and all these freedom people that are jumping on the Putin bandwagon. You're like, do you guys want to fight for freedom? And you're going to go to a country where you're not allowed to even freely report. You're not allowed to press, freedom of the press. You guys used, Aussie Cossack used to march the streets of Sydney for all these freedoms that you cannot have in Russia. So he's not our.
You know what's funny? He was boasting about how he wanted to get the Russian vaccine. So he was saying, "Oh, I'm so anti-vaccine, but I just want to get the Russian one injected into my cock." Like he's obsessed.
For him, everything is just it's the Russian. It's whatever Russia's saying. So right now,
and he's not even Russian. He's like Central Asian or something like that.
I promise you, tomorrow, if Putin becomes pro-Zionist, he's going to be Zionist. He doesn't. He literally doesn't. He doesn't think through anything. It's all about pushing that agenda. But put him to the side. Now, my position at the time, I was frustrated when I see the media and the West pumping up Zelensky as the Zelensky administration, the Zelensky government, like they were some like amazing whatever. When the same media only months or years before were condemning him for the corruption, for all the bad. The horrible parts of their government, then suddenly they turned him into a saint. He's not a saint. They're not saints. Two things can be true. I can not like the Ukrainian government. Yeah. And the same you can apply to Israel. I can not like the Ukrainian government, but I believe that the Ukrainian people should be able to determine for themselves. And obviously there are certain parts of whatever, certain regions that are actually, that there is a ethnically Russian, whatever. I think they should be able to determine for themselves. But the Ukrainian people, Putin did invade, and it did affect the Ukrainian people. So if I have to choose a side as somebody on the left, I'm not going to side with Putin. I would rather, so I guess in the beginning of the war, I regret that because I was so angry at the media that I spent more time just condemning Zelensky, which made it look like I was pro-Putin. I'm not pro either government. I am pro the Ukrainian people, who are the ones that are mostly suffering from this. Well, the Russian people, probably since the Ukrainians invaded recently, until before that, they were unscathed. There was no real issue. It was all about in Ukraine. I think we need to be able to have those conversations without trying to make the side we're on, or just because we're part of the West, we've got to prop up Zelensky and pretend like Putin has no claim to anything he's saying. There is some, in every conflict there is two sides. Even the Israel-Palestine. Like, if you're honest, as an Israeli, I can understand that there are grievances from the Palestinian side that are fair. I can understand that, and I can.
Actually, just out of interest, just as sort of like intellectual exercise, what would you actually say? Like, if you had to make the case for, say, because I'll go on and I'll respond to some of the claims that you made about Ukraine, and obviously I have disagreements and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Just as an interesting intellectual exercise, like if you had to present the most fair Palestine case, what would you actually say?
What do you mean, the most fair Palestine case?
Like if you said, you can understand the genuine real grievance and stuff, like what would you say if you had to explain that, or
what their narrative is?
Or what do you think, if you had to say criticize some one thing that Israel's done, what might you say?
Oh, there are plenty of things you can criticize Israel for doing. And also historically, there are plenty of things I think they did wrong. And pre-1948, there were some horrible acts that I wouldn't want done in my name. But,
because there were extremist militias.
It's a bit like Australia. Like, if you look historically in Australia, we did some horrible stuff to get to where we are today. The question is, what does that mean now? Like, so in Australia, if you put it in the context of Australia, then because of everything we did to the Aboriginal people, the people that were here first, then what does that mean? Does that mean we've got to live in the past and do a welcome to country? But those are minor issues compared to, what do we do? Do we give all the land? So I just like in Australia, I can look at our history and go, it was horrible what happened, but I want a better future, both for us and for Indigenous people in Australia. And in Israel, it's not the same thing, because I don't subscribe to the argument that they are the Indigenous people, because I think as Jews, and especially counter to what everyone thinks. It's not a white Jewish colony. It's actually
That's
mostly brown Jews. But so it's a different situation. But I would apply the same thing of like, okay, that was 70 years ago, and I understand you. But how do we move forward? You know, Israel's built something amazing in the Middle East. Now, how do you get some of that?
Look, it's very true. It's interesting, right? Because like Avi, your family obviously came to Australia as migrants. My family came to Australia as migrants from Greek Cyprus. Rukshan, you also came to Australia as migrants.
They came on boats illegally.
Yeah. But the thing is, though, like according to the extremist far left people, like we're all settler colonists. Even though like all of us, I mean, I don't know. My family came in the 60s, I think. I don't know about you and Avi and Rukshan, but like we didn't actually. Obviously, it's really sad when it came to what has happened in history, but like we didn't personally carry out atrocities. And like the idea that you can then destroy Australia today, or you can destroy Israel and just carry out these like massacres of everyone because all settler colonists are genuine military combatants, which is their ideology. Like that's insane. That's absolutely insane. Like Israel exists as a country, Australia exists as a country. We have to find a way to have peace in the future. This idea that you just destroy Australia, you destroy Israel, you burn down all these colonies, blah, blah, blah. Like, there are people living there that have had nothing to do with the history whatsoever. It's just insanity.
But Drew, that's a Western way of thinking, right? Like, that's how the West thinks. If you go to Asia or if you go to the Middle East, you know, people don't let go of this history. That's the thing, right? So that's why these things have been going on for thousands of years, if not tens of thousands of years, looking at the different regions of the world. So, you know, in the West, we look at the world in that way and we can kind of see those differences. And I think one of the comments said the nuances of history and understand that. And I appreciate that as someone who's come from a, you know, country that was colonized, for instance, by the British, the Portuguese and the Dutch. And, you know, there's all this history there, but I'm here in Australia. I don't see myself as responsible for anything. Right? I'm Sri Lankan, yeah. So I don't see myself as...
Sorry, I got it wrong earlier.
I don't see myself as
just call him
Indian
for
things that happen.
We call him Indian.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you go to, you know, parts of Asia, you know, there's, you know, we look at India, for instance, as one country, but that place is also contested by different, you know, groups in that country that have different languages and stuff that want their own state. Sorry?
Look at China colonizing Tibet and colonizing the Uyghurs.
Yeah. Well, same thing, right? So
yeah, these people rarely get to talk about it.
So what I'm trying to say is it's more of a Western way of looking at the world where we're ready to kind of accept the past and look towards the future. Whereas when you look at the Middle East, I just feel like no matter what you do and no matter what, you know, that's why you can't have peace in some of these countries because they're always at it. You know, there's always whatever opportunity that they can find to, you know, get a bit of land or get something back from the past or, you know, get a victory. People are willing to do some horrendous things for it. So I don't know if we can apply that same type of standard to, you know, I feel like we're not equal in culturally or, you know, understandings with the Western way of thinking with what's happening in the Middle East. And I think a lot of people here, they try to apply some type of Western logic to what's happening there. Whereas when I'm looking at what's happening in the Middle East, I don't apply that Western logic. I just look at it like, well, this is kind of, you know, not almost like barbarism in terms of how they view the world, how they view land, how they view sovereignty. And people are literally willing to blow themselves up for it. And, you know, how do you take that back? Now, there are countries which have done that, but, you know, in a contested area, it's very difficult to do that without what happened in Sri Lanka. We had a similar issue, and it's very controversial as well. But it took an overwhelming military victory to reset that. And I think right now what's happening in Israel is something akin to that, where they are going for a overwhelming military domination in that region to just kind of reset those boundaries and try to get these other countries and, you know, what's happening with Hamas in Gaza, just try to reset the whole thing to a place where you can have some type of normalcy. But I don't know if that's achievable in a country like, you know, Israel or in a region like the Middle East, as it happened in, for instance, Sri Lanka.
Man, on October 7, they killed Thai migrant workers, and I watched the video. The Hamas guys were filming it, and they were they were trying to behead one of the Thai migrant workers that they'd killed. They got a garden.
I saw the video.
They had my camera. Hang on, I'll just fix it. They had a garden hoe, and they were like trying to like chop off this guy's head, and they were chanting in the background, "Yahud, Yahud, Yahud," meaning Jew, Jew, Jew. So this is the mindset of a Hamas fighter. they're killing a Thai migrant worker, a guy who's not Jewish, who's not Israeli. He's literally a Thai migrant worker. And they're cutting off his head and they're going, Jew, Jew, Jew. This is the mindset of what Hamas did on October 7th. And people in the left, these really naive university students, they have no idea what they're dealing with when it comes to this. They actually don't listen to the ideology of these people. They don't listen to what they're actually saying. Like, you can go and watch the Hamas leaders and they literally say, we will sacrifice hundreds of thousands of people in order to destroy Israel. We're happy to, like, we want the blood of, this is literally what Hania said. I watched this. He said, we need the blood of grandmothers. We need the blood of children to energize our people to fight the Yahud, fight the Jews. That is a fucking insane mindset, that you're literally willing to sacrifice elderly women and children for a race war against Jews. That is fucking nuts. And these people, these naive university students in the West, they have no clue. They have no idea what they're confronting. They think that, like, that's why the whole chickens for KFC.
Do they really not know though?
I think this is the problem, right? That half of them that actually do know. So you've got the hardcore anti-colonial psycho people who are like, they know what happened and they're like, yep, based. It's really good because
that's what we need here.
Yeah, there's half of them like that, and then there's the other half that is just like really naive, and they're like, oh, if I went to Gaza, like Hamas, they know that I'm transgender, but Hamas would like me. And it's like, no. That's
Do you want to know something interesting? Is that I actually knew a girl, a Jewish girl, and she was not very connected to the community at all.
Many such cases.
Sorry?
Oh, like when it comes to these guys who are like end up doing the whole like Jews for Hamas thing, like that's always the case.
Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah. So people not really connected to the community. But she came on a trip once with her mother and with me to Israel. Her mother was very pro-Israel, but she was like young, uni student, lefty, alternative, musician, artist, like. And, she was butting heads with her mum. I'm talking about probably 2018, we traveled there together. And butting heads with her mum, her mum was taking her to Bethlehem, see the difference, like see it for yourself. Yeah. And and then came October 7 and she actually lives in the city in Melbourne. And when she started seeing the first protests just after October 7, she got angry. This girl. She got angry going, so she hung an Israeli flag out her window. Just out of anger. Like her mum's Israeli flag, she went and hung it out the window when they were marching past. And imagine what happened. The crowd turns on this scared girls, like they just looked at the apartment and they were just trying to get into the building. She's calling police, freaking out. She hated I think she hated my politics and didn't like what I used to be about. She was calling me to what do I do? This and I was like, well, this is them. This is who we tried to warn you about. And it's back then the problem was probably it was less so in Australia, and it's really weird that it took the biggest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust to take the left full circle onto this full jihadi road.
It's insane. It's insane. It's the biggest thing. It's the biggest issue that I've broken with the left on, and like on so many issues, like when it comes to like universal healthcare and stuff like that, I'm still a lefty. But when it comes to just like race war against Jews, no, I'm not on a unity ticket with the fucking mentally ill communists, and that's the problem. Like they just do not understand. There's a problem. There's like half of them that actually understand it all. They see the slaughter and the rape on October 7 and they like it. And then there's as we talked about, there's like just really naive people who don't understand what they're actually supporting, and it's just sick. That was how I woke up. October 7 happened, and almost within hours, the first celebrations started taking place in cities all across the world. And when I saw people celebrating, I'd watched the videos of a Thai migrant worker getting his head like cut off by a guy screaming Jew, Jew, Jew. And then I see people going out into the streets of New York City, Sydney, Melbourne, celebrating. The guys in Western Sydney doing fireworks and saying, this is a day of victory. Oh my God. That was one of the biggest wake-up calls in my life. And I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it at all. And it's just gotten worse and worse. Like it somehow gets worse all the time. Like Hamas kills five hostages. They actually defend it. You know, Israel kills
Isn't it insane that
Yeah.
no matter what Hamas or the Hezbollah or Iran do, there's always a justification, always celebrating it. You know, the targeting of civilians is okay, but then when Israel does a targeted, precise strike, knocks out 3,000 terrorists in one hit, and they focus on the poor little girl, the one innocent,
which is horrible. It's the Hezbollah fighters' fault. Yeah,
horrible. You know, the story is that it was the daughter picking up the pager for the terrorist dad. Horrible story, right? But they
why did the terrorist dad take the pager home? Like that's the problem.
But 3,000 terrorists, 3,000 Hamas personnel. And when you watch the videos, the ones that we can see where it exploded, you could see how precise it was. That even the person next to him was left untouched.
Yeah, I saw that video exactly.
So it was so precise, and they were like the left now. The jihadis, but the left, the fact that they was able with a straight face to go, how dare you do that and target, you know, it's a war crime. It's a war crime.
But that was just insane.
But the same people that brush off October 7 and make all these excuses and try to claim that we didn't see with our own eyes the videos, try to claim that it's Israel that killed all the civil. Those people will cry forever about that one little girl who was like who was a collateral damage in the most precise. Bring up.
That's the thing. It's literally impossible to be more precise than what Israel did on the pager thing. That's what made me realize there's literally nothing that Israel could do except for like hand in hand walking into the sea, or 7 million Israeli Jews just collectively going, we're all going to kill ourselves.
They're never going to be happy unless Israel loses. That's it. Like the other night, like Iran fired what was it? Almost 200 ballistic missiles. I have all the voice things from my mother, like in our family group. And she's going, pray for us, bro. My mum's super religious. I told her, listen, the last thing you want is my prayers. You're probably safer under those Iranian ballistic missiles. But but everybody can celebrate that, and then so any kind of response is it just means
there can't be a response. Exactly.
Okay. All right, so let's come back to Australia now. It's funny because
we do have to eventually, before the call ends, we do have to come back to the Ukraine thing, because I do have to say what my description. But we'll go on with this for now.
Do you want to say the Ukraine thing first?
Let's go through. We're on a roll right now, so let's keep going. We're on the unity issue on this one.
Yeah, I know, but I do like talking to people things about I disagree with them on, and I'm sure I disagree with you on that.
The one thing I was going to quickly say, because what you said, you know that argument tactic they have where they're like, October 7th didn't happen. Israel killed all its own people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was the best thing that ever happened in history. It was the greatest day of resistance in history. Like it's like what the Nazis do. They say about the Holocaust, it simultaneously didn't happen, but it was
exactly. It depends, like what argument they need for. Like either it didn't happen or it was great.
What I was going to say is like that is also like the classic Russian textbook when it comes to Ukraine. Like like every time they massacre a town or village, they always go, "It wasn't us. The Ukrainians did it," but also they all deserve it. Like. So honestly, I genuinely think like they've got very similar like jihadi style mindset when it comes to Ukraine. It's like I think just as Iran will never stop until there's like a genocide of Israel and all Israelis are either fucking slaves or dead. Like I genuinely think Putin and the regime people in Russia like won't stop until either Ukraine is like completely enslaved or every Ukrainian's dead.
I don't believe that, but like I don't believe that. I think that there is a part of like there is a certain part of Ukraine they don't want. What they definitely don't want is NATO, and you can argue either way of it. They don't want.
The reason why I'd say it's not that is because I actually watched the whole Tucker Carlson one with Putin, the whole thing. Like I watched it 2 or 3 times. I made a video
too, but that was I just found it crap because it was just like a really crappy KGB history lesson.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing I'm talking about, right? Like if you watch that back, like Tucker kept on trying to bring it back to the talking points that it makes sense. Like the talking points that make most sense to Westerners when it comes to Russia is the whole NATO thing.
Yeah.
So Tucker kept on trying to bring it back to that. And Putin would actually just like sidestep that and be like, let me tell you the history of Ukraine going back to 700 AD. There's never been a Ukraine, never been a Ukrainian language. We're always one country. And every single Ukrainian today is either like a Nazi or a Jew or gay. They're all fake. Like I was watching that and I'm like, this is like the same jihadi mindset. Like they just will never stop. They've ideologically become obsessed with this sort of thing. And I think this is unfortunately the problem. Like when you're facing a really ideological enemy, we don't understand that in the West because, you know, we have, it's like trying to tell a fish that you're in water, you know?
But let me ask you something with Ukraine and Russia, right?
Yeah.
What do you want? What's the end game? Like I look at that, the reason why I think it's not the same is because I don't think Ukraine has a real chance. They're not going to win it. So I think their best option is peace.
Look, if you look at the history of Russia's military, they lost to Japan in 1905. They lost to Finland, which was 2 million people. They lost to Finland, which was 2 million people in the lead up to World War II. Like they have had big military defeats before because there's so much corruption in Russia and things are much more brittle than they seem in Russia. And so honestly, I think it's the same sort of situation with Iran. When you're just dealing with a rabid dog, you can't show weakness. You can't show your belly. You have to just show full-on strength. I genuinely think if Putin thinks that the West will never abandon Ukraine, if the West will just stand with Ukraine forever, I genuinely think eventually Russia will fold. So I think it's the same with the Iranian mullahs. Like it's like with the Iranian mullahs. When you try and do the peace negotiations, they sense weakness and they push harder. You have to show strength with these people.
I understand that second argument you're making, but I think the big difference that I find in this situation, like forget about all the history, forget about everything, forget about the NATO thing, forget about all that. How many people have died in the conflict so far on Ukraine's side, approximately?
Look, it's very hard to say, but they think that the total amount of people killed or injured on both sides is up to 1 million people now.
Okay. So let's go with your arguments, you know, that if you keep the war going, the West keeps funding it and people and every voter's sick of that. But let's say you can keep it going for how long? How many years are you going to be able to sustain that? And how many more people are going to die? That wasn't worth it, right? The difference that I find when it comes to Israel and Iran is that I think Israel has a fighting chance to win it now on their own. They just need the permission. I think people are deluded online when they say that Israel can't fight the war. Like they need America to fight the war. I think Israel can fight.
Winning somehow.
I think Israel can fight it. They just want the green light to do it because they need America's green light, as in they've got the veto in the UN to be able to fight it. They're not going to ask American boots on the ground. That's never going to happen.
But the same with Ukraine. They don't want boots on the ground. They're just asking. So at this current stage in time, Ukraine has developed its own drone capabilities that they can strike far deep inside Russian territory, even without Western arms. And it's actually the US and the Biden administration. It's the same sort of deal with when it comes to Hezbollah and stuff like that. When they get soft and they get scared and they're like, oh, you can't escalate. Like Ukraine is saying, let us please hit the Russian air bases that are bombing us every single day, that are killing our civilians. And they've got their own capabilities. They've developed these amazing drones now that can actually do it, long-range drones. But it's the West that is trying to put the veto on it because they're scared. I honestly think it's weakness. And I think it's actually the same. Like, you have to remember when it comes to Ukraine, like, what did Stalin do to Ukraine? He starved like 4 or 5 million Ukrainians to death in the Holodomor. This is a genocidal enemy against Ukraine. And it's the same genocidal enemy against when it comes to Iran and these Islamist terrorists with Israel. Like their mindset is we want to destroy anyone who won't submit to us. That's genuinely what I think. And I just think the only thing we can do is we just have to be so strong. If we show even the slightest sign of wavering, they will sense blood and they'll keep pushing. Honestly, Russia's struggling itself. Like Russia has lost up to 500,000 men on this war. They've lost so much materiel. They can't keep fighting forever. What I'm worried about, I know that argument. Obviously, I don't want attrition either. I want peace. My biggest fear, though, would be, say Trump comes in and he says, okay, we're going to do we'll freeze the conflict right now on these current lines of control. My biggest fear would be Russia starts back up in 1 year or 2 years' time. Like they have the rest period. It's the same with the people who say, let's have a ceasefire with Hamas and Hezbollah. What would Hezbollah and Hamas do? They rearm and then they fight again. And I think that's the problem, right? If this enemy is set to destroy you and they've got an existential obsession with trying to kill you, what do? They're going to just take the ceasefire and rearm and then fight again later. That's my problem. That's my problem with Russia. But it's also the same problem with Iran. When Israel killed Nasrallah the other day, which was beautiful, who could be against it? Like even if you're Arab or Muslim, who could be against the killing of Nasrallah? He literally killed 100,000 Syrian Arabs in Syria. He slaughtered Syrians. He was a genocider. He committed genocide against Muslims. Nasrallah probably killed more Arabs than Israel ever has.
100%, he for sure has. But again, so the war in the last year, 11 months now, the gains that Israel has made. So whether it's a Gaza Strip, essentially knocking out Hamas as an authority. Now they're a guerrilla force, so it's much harder to fight because they're not small. There's not a proper command anymore. It's just terrorists running around, and it's about what the next step is there. But they destroyed Hamas as a proper fighting force and an established government. Everything, they knocked it out in Lebanon. They knocked out literally the entire command of Hezbollah, the entire communications of Hezbollah, all within a couple of weeks. So Israel's had these amazing gains in the fight. What has Ukraine had since the war started? How long has the war been going now? I feel like it's 3 years now.
Look. Ukraine has actually won back up to half the territory that Russia originally seized, and they were all. This is part of the problem, right? People think that the West are the warmongers in Ukraine. The West are the ones holding the Ukrainians back. There was a window. It was basically the end of 2022. Ukraine started rolling through Russian positions. They seized back thousands of square kilometers. It was an amazing victories for Ukraine in the east. And what happened was, unfortunately, then the West started dribbling some of the supplies. They started saying, "Oh, you can't hit here. You can't hit here. You can't hit here. We're not going to give you this weapon, or we'll give you the weapon, but we'll give it to you in 1 year, or we'll give it to you in 2 years."
But are they going to? Also, you got to remember, Russia's in
strategy. It's the same sort of dumb shit that they do when it comes to Hezbollah and Hamas. Like they see that they're doing.
But again,
well,
Russia is a nuclear power. So again, it's never going to be the same. They haven't had the gains. The war has been going on for so many years now. There's so many dead. And
it's an interesting question, though, right?
If I could pick, I would say yes. I want Ukraine to win this war tomorrow, but I just don't see a way for that to happen. So what is the
question, though, right? So here's an interesting question. You know how they say that the breakout time that Iran might have to getting an actual nuclear weapon is down to potentially like 2 weeks? Like if the Iranian leadership were to go, "We want the nuclear weapon," they could potentially within a 2-week breakout period get that nuclear weapon because they've enriched enough uranium or whatever. So say in this scenario, Iran were to get, say hypothetically, Iran has that breakout nuclear capacity and suddenly it can wield that nuclear force over Israel. What would you do though? Like, I wouldn't say that Israel should then make peace with Hezbollah.
Well, I'll tell you, I would say to you that would be the conversation would have to go down in that direction because, especially when it comes to the Islamist ideology, they will go down as martyrs. They will kill you even if it kills them. So Israel is never going to let that happen. For the exact reason that I'm arguing here. So what I'm saying to you is like, put aside, I do find that too many people on our side end up falling for the pro-Putin position and arguing the Russian talking points and arguing for Russia like they're the good guys when that doesn't need to be the argument. You don't actually have to be, for me, the reason why Russia is the enemy is they're the allies of the CCP. They're the allies of Iran. They're the allies of North Korea. If any of these people manage to take control of our country, and if you think that they wouldn't one day take it, if they could, you're deluded. And if
they'd kill us all, exactly.
We would be slaves.
Guys, I'm reading the comments, and a lot of people disagree with a lot of the things that both of you are saying. Actually,
fair enough. Like, look, it's an interesting discussion. What are people saying?
I mean, you can bring up some of the comments, Harvey. Maybe
I'm trying to look. I'm trying to argue.
There's a lot going on.
I'm trying to argue with this Zelensky shill.
The thing with Zelensky, what I admire is he had the ability to leave Ukraine. Like Biden literally said, "I'll give you a helicopter to go out," and he didn't go out, and that honestly deserves respect. I honestly think that deserves respect because, like, in a world where you've got all these weak leaders who roll over at the short sign, like Zelensky could have gone out of there at any point in the past 2 years. There's nothing really like. Why would he want to stay? Like, they've tried to kill him and his family so many times. Russia now, so many times they've tried to have decapitation strikes against Zelensky. I think that's worthy of respect.
I'm very surprised that Russia hasn't had. I honestly thought Russia would wipe Ukraine off within a few weeks. I did not imagine it ever going this long.
Dude, you know why it's still going? It's because the Ukrainians don't want to be slaves. And it's like the Israelis, right? If you push the Israelis, if you push the Ukrainians against the wall, they know that the choice is it going to be death or fighting? And they'll fight on no one wants to be a slave. No one wants to be a slave. Like, there are people who would die on their knees rather than be a slave. And look, as well, you know, when you said before,
yeah, someone wants you to ask me how many Palestinians have been killed. So I'll tell you now, a lot less than any other conflict. It's weird that you're just focused on this one. How many terrorists has Israel killed?
Well, this is a sad thing, right? Like look at the Syrian civil war. Like 800,000 people dead, and you didn't have weekly rallies in every single city across Australia, you know, screaming about it every single day. Like people didn't really care. It's sad.
Rukshan, where do you stand on all of this? It sounds like you're not even taking a position, or there's no one's letting you get a word in.
No. I said at the top of the hour when we started this, I said there's going to be no chance I'm going to be able to get a word in when you two start going off on about this. Look, I'm more simplistic when it comes to a lot of these things, and maybe my view can be as an ordinary Australian looking at a lot of these issues that we're looking at, you know, happening around the world, these foreign wars. I think, you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, my care factor is overshadowed by the impact it has in our country and the problems that it causes. I don't think the Russia and Ukraine conflict really causes issues in Australia. Maybe the first couple of weeks there was a few debates and discussions, but it hasn't really impacted the social fabric. You know, it's like any other foreign war almost. Even though we talk about it in the terms of it being Russia and Ukraine and the West, it doesn't really impact Australia, and maybe that's because of the population dynamics. But when it comes to the Israel and Palestine conflict, it has really impacted, I think, the social cohesion in Australia, and it's impacted in such a weird way where you kind of forget that, you know, you're in Australia, and you know, I would like to be personally in Australia where I don't have to deal with a lot of the crap and the nonsense and the hatred and these things about historical arguments and this person did that, this person did this. I understand the context of it all and I understand the importance of it all for different people, but at the end of the day, you know, you don't have other ethnicities discussing their wars all the time here and, you know, making it an issue for everyone else. So I think in that respect, there is a bit of fatigue, perhaps, amongst a lot of ordinary Australians that aren't as, you know, invested in this issue as you guys are, and perhaps aren't as invested in this issue as the Palestinian people and the Israeli people in this country are. And again, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on them and say that they're not allowed to have feelings about this stuff. That's not what I'm saying. I think when you're living in a country like this, you know, you kind of want to live in Australia. And I think we're moving away from what Australia is, sadly. It's beginning to look a bit like what the UK's become in terms of how, you know, even these foreign issues seem to impact our local domestic policies, like things around, you know, people feeling safe on the street, things around, you know, protests. So
sectarianism is the worst part.
Yeah, and it's kind of being taught to the children here. You have, you know, these schools giving time off for kids to go protest for Palestine and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, we're going down a path that, yeah, like, and I'm pretty sure I read somewhere, I was watching some documentary and it was like the Saudi Arabian government, then they don't allow protests around these things. And I'm not saying they're like a bastion of freedom or something like this, but they seem to maintain, you know, overseas, you know, what that country is, the basics of that country. But I think Australia is so lost now with our leadership that, you know, it is kind of like we're adjudicating and fighting the war itself here in terms of which side people stand on. And I think that's probably the direction that we shouldn't be going in, but it's becoming even more and more intense, especially, you know, in parts of Sydney where you have large populations that support these, what's happening. For instance, they're having at the mosques, like the mourning periods for Nasrallah, and they were, he's a terrorist. As far as I'm concerned, for me as an Australian, he is a terrorist, the same as Osama bin Laden. So it's like watching people go and celebrate Osama bin Laden. If you're looking at me from an outsider, like I have no connection to the place or the issue or the things, and I don't care about those things. So for me, it's like, hey, there's people in my country that are celebrating a terrorist very openly, and our government doesn't seem to care enough to stop it or say anything about it. But if you go, a couple of years ago, if you protest about something, anti-government, they'll come up to your house, they'll shoot you with rubber bullets, whatever. I'm just saying. I'm not saying the same thing, crazy. But it's crazy like that. We actually have this thing in this country where, glorifying terrorism and not being able to actually tackle the issues around terrorism is so ingrained now into the political discourse that it's just how it is, and we have to accept it. And I think that's so wrong. And I've been happy, for instance, with Peter Dutton recently. He's been very good on this particular topic as opposition leader. He's been very clear. I think having moral clarity around this issue and understanding that we're in the West. I'm not in the Middle East. I'm not in Asia. I'm not in India. I'm not in Sri Lanka. I'm an Australian. So we have to have that kind of moral basis as Westerners, as Australians, and we can't let that be corrupted by these foreign ways of thinking, which frankly have failed. You can see how badly they've failed because these people for centuries and thousands of years cannot stop killing each other. So we don't need these ideas and these things and this history and that history. I just frankly don't care. But as a political commentator, of course, I have views like you guys have views, but perhaps your views are more better articulated than mine. So that's why I let you guys talk about it more. But I can give the comment.
I like how humble it is. Rukshan is, because I bet you if anyone watching this is going to be like, let Rukshan talk more. He's much more level-headed and articulate and responsible than the both of you clowns.
I agree with everything that you just said, Rukshan. Like, I just hate the fact that it's on Australian streets. That's one of the things that has made me so passionately against it. The fact that there's like literal Hamas and Hezbollah and just terrorist shit on our streets. I hate it so much. There's no reason it has to be here. No one in Australia was like Australia was going fine. No one ever asked, can we please get Hezbollah and Hamas guys on our streets screaming Yahud, Yahud, Yahud? Like, it's just stupid. It's just dumb. I don't want it here.
Yeah, if you want to do that, if you want to do those things, like either go back to where you can do that in peace, go back, or go to countries that support your cause, go live there. Don't bring that crap to Australia. That's literally how I think about this. Like, don't bring that. Like,
I don't like the supremacist
don't care.
And the comment that just came up was, do you think that I'll bring it back up again because I think it's a good point. Do you think that it's a coincidence? Just 3 days ago, Albanese announces the envoy to combat Islamophobia in Australia. And it's so true because like that.
I read about that. So the Imam National Council was pressuring him and saying, if you don't do it now, we're going to be really upset. Because all the lefties were complaining for like the past 3 months, like, well, we've got an anti-Semitism commissioner. Why don't we have an Islamophobia one? Blah, blah, blah. And it was like, they were going mental and they were pressuring the government. And it's just so annoying.
I don't think we need either. I think we just need to enforce laws. Yeah.
Like, literally. Well, that's true. That's literally
just
true.
Enforce laws. Like, when you have people marching the streets with terrorist flags, and I think that's
stop that. Yeah.
Well, let's look at your tweet. I
genuinely think anyone who's got a terrorist flag should just be immediately deported.
So here we got. Firstly, I've got to make fun of you because you're such a typical leftist. Like, you got every flag, although respect, because he actually has the Australian flag in his.
Well, I got the Australian flag in there, and I put Cyprus because that's my family background. And
that's a Cyprus flag? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a Cyprus flag. Turkey occupies the whole north of Cyprus, and I put America, Ukraine, Taiwan there because I'm like, they're the guys that are trying to fight against China, Russia, Iran. So yeah. But anyway, let's go.
You just do you have pronouns in your bio?
No, I don't have pronouns. I'm not like that lefty, man.
I'm joking. Yeah.
I know.
But like looking at.
I don't subscribe to the whole pronoun stuff.
Looking at. Hold on, we'll get to it. But looking at. So Free Palestine Coalition spokesman Samak Tasnim, and then look at her bio.
Of course.
Teaching associate PhD candidate, Monash education, race is Islamophobia.
Well, here's the thing, right? What do we have in common with her as Australians?
She's the biggest Jew. She's the biggest racist Jew hater there is.
I know, and just the thing is, like, what does she have to do with Australia?
Nothing.
She doesn't like Australia.
She hates Australia. They hate Australia.
Yeah.
They burn Australia flags. They hate the colony. They call us colonizers.
Yeah.
Like, go back.
You know exactly her. I looked it up. She's got it. You can find this on Google. She wrote an article where she was like, I'm a refugee from Palestine, but here in Australia, I'm a settler. So she was saying, I'm indigenous to Palestine, but I'm a settler, racist. So what does she want then? Like, if she's a settler,
does that mean that the indigenous Australians, the Aboriginals, can do what they did on October 7 to her? Like, is that how that works?
Well, this is the insanity of their ideology.
Anyway,
how can you say like a Palestinian refugee is a settler colonizer in Australia? Like, what the hell does that even mean?
So here you wrote, I think this was from the project, wasn't it?
Yeah. And she was extreme on there, man. She was full on defending Hezbollah.
Let's listen to what she had to say on the project that gave her a platform, a large platform, and often do.
Yeah.
And Hezbollah is a militant group that has, popular support. It's part of the Lebanese government. There's, 3 days of mourning right now in Lebanon and 5 days of mourning in Iran. That is a way to, show that respect to Nasrallah. And there were members of the community, the broader Middle Eastern community, who did join to mourn Nasrallah, who was assassinated just that night before the rally.
Is the law, and here our politicians came down pretty hard on those protesters. The Prime Minister said we do not want to bring radical ideologies and conflict here, while our Foreign Affairs Minister Penny Wong says the flags threaten national security and fuel fear and division. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's what the government does. It goes and peddles this sort of rhetoric. I think it's dog whistling, to be honest, because we're seeing today in the news that of the mosques in Sydney that are more from the Shia community, they're also holding events to mourn Nasrallah.
Do you like how she says it's dog whistling? So what's the dog whistle? The dog whistle is
I'm not even dog whistling. I'm saying anyone who supports Hezbollah should be deported. There's no dog whistle there. I'm just saying deport Hezbollah terrorists.
Yeah, but I guess her argument is you're dog whistling as in you're bringing out the people that don't like Muslims, and you're saying, oh, look, check out the Muslims being terrorists. That's like what
just don't wave a Nasrallah flag. Don't wave a Hezbollah flag. Like,
it's like, just don't be a terrorist, and then nobody has a problem with it. But it's and then she goes on, and then her next point is, how can it be bad? Because the mosques here are celebrating the terrorists. And it's like, you want to talk about a dog whistle? That's a dog whistle. You're right now. You're telling anybody that's skeptical of the Islamic community that no, there's nothing to worry about. They're just celebrating terrorists in our mosques now.
Well, I just think, like, if you're a radical extremist mosque, I've got no problem if you're just like a normal Muslim. But if you're a radical extremist mosque and you're literally holding memorial services for a guy who killed so many people, literally like 100,000 people in Syria, even if you hate Jews, even if you hate just what he did in Syria alone was like fucking genocide.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, fuck off. We don't want that here.
And they're actually they get tax breaks. They don't pay tax. So it costs us, the taxpayer, to fund these pro-terrorist mosques that she's supporting.
Again, I'm not against, if it's just normal Muslims, I've got no problem. It's just, I don't want people actually full on supporting terrorism in Australia. Like actually having services for a terrorist, like Osama bin Laden. Like we're going to have Osama bin Laden services. That's craziness.
At least back like in Osama days, nobody did that. Why is there suddenly this shift? Is it just because his victims are Jews? Yeah,
because it's the Jews. It's the only issue that unites the whole ummah. You have to kill the Yahud, like, for the extremists. That's what the problem is.
Yeah. So you're saying if I hired a venue and held a memorial service on September 11 for Osama bin Laden or something like this to celebrate him, you'd think Asia would come down on us? Yes,
Asia,
definitely.
Everyone, but the whole country, including the Muslim community itself, wouldn't have had a problem, I don't think, to condemn you at the time. Even though, like, there was weirdness about they do condemn.
Right? Every single terrorist attack on the West, like 9/11, all this stuff, the major national Imam Council does condemn that. but they have
Okay.
never once condemned October 7th, ever.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's been
In fact, they join in on the conspiracy. They join in
Yeah,
on the
but-
conspiracy theories.
It's the crazy thing, because like the National Imam Council, like when it was ISIS, they'd condemn it. When it was all these terrorist incidents throughout the years, they would always condemn it. But on October 7th, very notably, they would never condemn it. I looked at their press release. Like, if you can find it, Avi, like find their press release, the National Imam Council on October 7th. Like even from the first start, like and it's just different, because the reason is they see Israel, they see the Jews as like a crusader state.
Yeah, I'll pull it up in a second. Let's watch this and then I'll pull it up.
And I don't think that it's right to harass community members because they held a flag that for them represents many things, even though the Australian government wants to reduce it to a representation of, like an evil ideology.
I hear your defence of the terrorism.
Well, that's complete bullshit.
Nasrallah himself, when you read the background of this man, who's been a leader of that group for 30 years, has been involved in some of the most deadly terror attacks in the world.
You know what frustrates me is, like, Steve Press, it's true what he's saying now, but why are you going so soft and nice on her?
I know.
Why are you not going, dude, he was a brutal terrorist. He killed more Muslims. You should care. He killed more Muslims than anyone.
Yeah, he literally killed more Muslims than Israel killed in the past 100 years, probably.
For sure. For sure. In Syria.
And that, so many people in Syria. Yeah. But because it's the Yahud are just this, like...
But it just frustrates me that even Steve Price, who I know, and even what he's saying is okay, but just in the manner that they have to do it on a national platform like the Project... And Waleed just like gently there, although like I did watch
Waleed went really gentle after that. Waleed was like, listen, I have some problems with Hezbollah, but you have to, like, he had a really gentle, like,
he made
so Avi, why are they doing that though? What's your idea around why they're tiptoeing?
Because that's the woke position. The fact is that it comes back to everything we're talking about, is the far left, which the Project is, all the producers on the Project are gay far left-wing activists. They are. Anyone that knows anything about the producers in
look, they've had me on before. I don't mind some of the Project people, but like they can go very left-wing sometimes.
They are. It's known that's what they are, and it's confusing for them because the position is like, on one hand, they're still mainstream, and the mainstream hasn't gotten to the point where they're accepting Nasrallah yet. Yeah, they're getting there.
ABC's getting there. ABC's getting there.
ABC's certainly getting there. But the Project still hasn't got there. So they've got to kind of toe the line of our audience. Our audience are on TikTok, reading the Quran and reading Osama bin Laden's letter. And, every conspiracy about 9/11 and so our audience is already blaming the Jews for it. So to our audience who are educated on TikTok, the Jews are pretty bad and Nasrallah's not that bad. So
what do you say to that?
Yeah, what are you
going to... You know the whole TikTok letter to America thing?
Yeah.
Yes.
That went so viral, and all these lefties going, wow, I never
heard. I can't believe. Why did they hide us?
Dude, firstly, it was never hidden. Secondly, if you actually read it, like, there's like a massive section of it where he's just like, we want to kill everyone in the West because we think you are Jews. Like he literally just said it straight up, and they're like, wow, he's making so much sense.
But it's because it's about the Jews. It's not, he doesn't really want to kill us. He wants to kill the Jews.
And also in that very letter, he had a big part where it was like, one of the reasons we hate the West is because there's gay people and there's decadence and it's lefty. Like he literally says it in the letter. He's like, I am a far right Nazi, except I'm Muslim. And then all these lefties are like, wow, it's so beautiful, so deep. Like, wow, because it's, you know what it is? It's actually reverse Orientalism. They're like, wow, if you're a brown person, wow, you've got all this mystical wisdom in you. Wow, what he's saying about the Jews is so profound. Like, that's what it is. It's reverse Orientalism.
How can we defend people carrying photographs of him in the streets of Australia?
I don't think I've defended Hezbollah or people who are carrying his photo. I've just recognized that is sometimes what people do. They carry photos in a nationalistic way.
Don't you sometimes do that,
An assassinated leader who was assassinated with a airstrike that caused a massacre in Lebanon and 6 residential buildings to be destroyed. I think it's our duty to kind of provide
care
an
so much
analysis
about
that
innocent
makes
civilians.
sense rather than just look at things from, you know, a higher moral ground. Because if we do that, we won't actually reach any solutions.
As a protest organiser,
you have to talk to the Hezbollah people and reach a solution with them. You have to be nice to the people in the streets. And you know what they were chanting the other day? They were chanting "Keva, Keva, Ya Yahud," which is
I saw that. Yeah, that's what you wrote in the tweet, and I was impressed you knew what that meant.
Wait, man, it's just, well, I just read about this stuff. I'm just like, okay, what do these guys believe? I will go read them. I'll go like watch the memory TV translations or whatever. The Keva, Keva, Ya Yahud chant is so insane. It's like basically like 613 AD or something like that, like literally the first couple years of Islam, and like a tribe of Jews was like massacred. And they're literally saying, remember Jews, we're going to return with the armies of Muhammad. That's literally what it means.
And we're going to do what we did in, yeah.
And also, I found this out as well. The guy who did the Bali bombing, Amrozi, when he was getting sentenced to death in an Indonesian court, he literally walked into the court screaming, Keva, Keva, Ya Yahud. So the guy who's probably killed probably the individual guy who's the worst mass murderer in the history of Australia, like killed 88 Australian people with a fucking bomb. And he goes into the Indonesian courtroom, chants Keba, Keba, Ya Yahud. And then these cunts who have nothing to do with Australia come into Melbourne and Sydney and start chanting Keba, Keba, Ya Yahud, like the Bali bomber who was the worst mass murderer in Australian history. Fuck off. Just get out of our country.
And you know what's funny is that these lefties that defend the Hamas and the Hezbollah and all, you know, defend everything to do with any conversation that has to do with this conflict. But they ignore the fact that every time, so they say Zionists, but the Arabs never say Zionists.
Never.
If they always say the Jews, it's Yahud.
They always say Yahud.
It's literally the Jews, and it's like, no, they mean Zionists. So why don't they say Zionists? Why do they have to say Jews?
Yeah, they were literally just chanting as well. There was another chant as well, like down Yahud or something like that. So they're so open about it. It's only when they're like, it's the Western college kids. There's the joke where, like, when they're chanting with Western colleges, it's free Palestine, river to the sea. But when they chant in Arabic, it's like Palestine will be Arab from the river to the sea. Like, they literally change it based on the audience.
100%.
Easier for you if these things weren't done and weren't attracting all the attention? Would you, for example, call on people attending future protests not to bring them?
It is the reality on the ground that, you know, allows actually for militant groups to gain popularity, because Israel has declared a war with Hezbollah, and that is the context that this flag was raised.
Israel has declared a war on Hezbollah. Forget about the fact that for October 8, the day after October 7, before Israel returned fire, Hezbollah was starting to fire the 9,000, I think it was 9,000 rockets, until Israel decided enough is enough. What reality
but
is
to the broader point, what's that got to do with us and doing this in Australian streets?
That's
what this is about, right? Like, what does any of that have to do with, you know, giving consent for people to
to play devil's advocate? There's Jews here too.
Well, it's that, and
she doesn't like Jews.
There's also these mental ill beliefs where they're like, they think that like Australia's supplying the IDF with all these weapons. Like, Australia has like no trade whatsoever with Israel. Like man, we're literally irrelevant basically to the Middle East. Like, these guys are fucking dumb.
I know that it's easier for us to just reduce the issues, but we cannot speak about war in binary terms and in very simplistic ways, because
they have to throw every leftist buzzword into no matter what issue you're talking about. Like, suddenly now that this is non-binary.
That is not going to end this escalation. So it's not my job here to moralize the issue and then lead to further demonization of these already victimized communities. And
that's what you do to Jews every day. They moralize every day. They're like, if you don't support them, you're baby killers.
To these already victimized communities. Like, the victims are actually the terrorists. Like, just imagine for a second, like, somebody strapped a bomb to them and went and committed a terrorist attack. Like, you can make all these same arguments about a person who actually then goes and carries out a terror attack here in Australia.
That's what they do. Like, that's what they were doing about Osama bin Laden in the letter to America. Like, they've already started doing that with, like, literally Al-Qaeda.
Hey, this is, you know, condemnable. how does that change
Not even a
the
word as well.
experience of being in a battlefield with bombs raining on you and your people?
All right, Tasneem, thank you very much for your time tonight. We'll watch the story from here.
And
Thank you very much for your time tonight. And on that one, they're
Why don't they have Thomas Sewell on as well? Why doesn't the
yeah,
president get
exactly.
Thomas Sewell
Like
on
they
to
would never
scream
put
about
Thomas.
the hood and the Jews? And just go, thank you as well. Thank you so much, Thomas, for screaming about the Jews tonight. Like that's the equivalent of what we've got here.
Exactly, 100% is. So why is there a double standard? Like they would never put Thomas Sewell on there, but they will put a person who is a far greater threat to the Jewish community, who hates Jews, I reckon, a lot more sincerely than Thomas Sewell. I think Thomas Sewell half the time does it for clickbait. I'm not saying it's good. I'm not defending him. I think he's a piece of shit. But the point is that person that they're platforming hates Jews, is a much bigger threat to Jews, has an army of Jew haters behind her.
Well, they've literally got a paramilitary force, yeah.
And they're platforming her.
Yeah, well, exactly. Just tell us the day when Waleed Ali has Thomas Sewell on, and he's like, "Well, Thomas, what do you
Thanks
think
for
about?"
your time. No, and end at the end. Thank you for your time, Thomas Sewell.
Thank you, Thomas, for telling us about why Hitler was good. We'll follow the story from here. It's never going to happen because it's reverse Orientalism. If you're a brown person, you carry all the secret wisdoms of the earth within your heart, or something like that, and you only become a terrorist if your soul has been burdened by pain and suffering, etc. It's just a special way of viewing the world. That's how it is. That's what it is.
What's your reaction to this story?
Oh, the story. They're going ahead.
They're going ahead. They've made an agreement with the police. You know what? Personally, I'll tell you where I stand. I'm good on them. This is one of those things that I am happy they're doing it because they're exposing themselves. There's a bunch of points
You're actually right.
in the last year where I've gone, amazing, well done. Thank you for showing. Thank you for attacking an innocent busker on the street. Thank you for attacking me. Thank you for hitting Rukshan. I would have hit him harder. All these things. I'm like, good, because now people get to see that even the one day that you should probably stay silent.
Literally like 9/11, basically.
You're going to stand up and make it,
I honestly think a lot of these extremist elements within these protest groups are misreading and miscalculating the Australian population, the general average Aussie. I think they're miscalculating it. I think they think that people agree with this. I think they don't understand that most people looking at this will be going, well, this is it's a complicated issue, yes, but it's a day of tragedy. It's a day of mourning. It's a terrorist attack day. And it's insensitive. And yes, we live in a country that has freedom of speech and the right to protest and all of these things. And those are things that, Avi, myself, you probably, Drew, we advocate for these things because that's what sets countries like Australia apart from places where you can't do this. But, that also doesn't mean that you should use those occasions in a way that's disrespectful of overall community harmony to such an extent that, it is a very sensitive, tragic issue for a lot of Australians that would be looking at that date as a day of mourning. So
it reminds people of the Bali bombing and the Sydney siege and all the terrorist attacks that Australians have suffered and all the terrorist attacks across the entire world. I still remember when the Paris attack happened in 2015. Every single person made their profile picture the French flag because people hate terrorism. Literally, everyone fucking hates terrorism. You know what's interesting, Rukshan? I wonder whether they're even thinking about what the Australian community actually cares. I don't even know.
If you go back to the interview on the project and the manner in which she was speaking, she was pretty much just setting the ground rules for this is what it's like for you in Australia now, and you must accept this because this is what it is. Like, we don't have to explain ourselves. You have to understand that if we want to mourn our dead terrorist leaders. Like, that is you just got to accept that. And the reason that we're carrying around the flag and stuff is because that's just the reality that we live in. So you have to accept that. And again, personally, I think that's wrong. I think as Australians, we can reject all of these things because we are not equal when it comes to the appreciation of terrorism for whatever reason in that manner. We don't do that. Like you brought up the point about the neo-Nazis and the way that we treat them. If you look at the politicians in the state of Victoria, the disgust that they show as soon as they hear about these Nazis just marching down the street, they freak out and they talk about how just disgusting it is and how abhorrent it is, and we can't tolerate this in Australia, and they're very clear on this issue when it comes to the Nazis, and so they should be. But when it comes to these type of issues, including foreign wars and terrorists that we clearly identify as people who are people that hate the West, Hezbollah linked to Iran, they chant death to America, that are one of our best allies. Of course, that means death to the rest of the West as well. And here we are, accommodating people who are in that terrorist nexus. So it's quite bizarre.
Not even kidding. If Thomas Sowell wanted to put on like a keffiyeh and like hold up like a picture of Nasrallah, I think the left would literally start embracing him.
Do you know what's funny? There's a guy that used to roll with Thomas Sowell that actually does that now. Like,
really, right?
What was his name? What was his name? Benji. Burgess, something Burgess. He was like the one of the big Australian patriots in the whole anti-Islam movement, and he converted to Islam, and now he's like rallying. Bro,
I've heard there was that famous story on the Washington Post a couple of years ago. Like there was literally a guy who was like in Atomwaffen or something like that, or like the base, and he converted to Islam and then killed his roommate, and he was like a neo-Nazi to Islam. It's an interesting pipeline. It actually happens.
It makes sense. Nowadays, there's been a lot of that. Like a lot of those people that were crazy, over the top. Actually, they were actually racist, and that's why
like Hitler and shit.
Yeah, so it was kind of a natural progression to them because they found another community that likes it, but it's actually acceptable. It's just it goes back to everything you're saying because they get excused.
It'd be fine.
Yeah, they get excused for their pro-Hitler stances and their pro-Nasrallah stances. Yeah. I think I found the statement you were talking about. Is this the one?
Oh yeah, that's it.
So this is, in context, October 8th. So you can see the date.
Yeah.
And this is the Australian National Imams Council. So this is the peak body.
The peak body. And the crazy thing is, prior to this, they had 100% record for condemning like basically every single terror. They were pretty good. Because they like the National Imam Council is like big on like actual social acceptability and stuff. But when it comes to October 7, like full on.
A day later. So this is in context. October 8, Israel there were still terrorists at that time.
Inside Israel,
that were holding territory inside of Israel and they were butchering and raping people at this time when they put this press conference, and it says that supports the Palestinians' people's right to self-determination and opposes the unlawful occupation of them in Gaza.
It's crazy.
And there was no occupation in Gaza, but whatever. But the crazy, like, forget about all those crazy arguments that they got in there, which are false. That's your response. Well,
they don't even have a single line in there about the Israelis that were killed. Not a single line.
Wow. Yeah, there you go.
That one was really sick. When I saw that, I'm like, yeah, that's crazy, because like all these other ones that happen, all these other terror attacks, it's always like they'll always quickly condemn it because they don't want like a backlash against the community. But then when it comes to this one, it's just like, everyone get on board with the race war against the Jews.
I think I told you this, Drew. Like, for years, many in my own community, like the establishment especially, condemned me as, they called me an Islamophobe. They called me all these names. And the funny thing is, I have more Muslims in my personal life. Like my own stepkids are Muslims, but like I've always had more Muslims in my life than any of these organizations have ever had. Right?
Dude, I had 4 years as a campaigner for Uyghur Muslims.
Yes.
And they now call me an Islamophobe.
So, and then what happened was, so back in 2017, 2018, all those Jewish community leaders were busy every time putting out statements about me, putting, anything I would say, they would immediately publish something in the Australian Jewish News. Avi Yemini doesn't speak for Jews. Fast forward to today, after that was exactly what I was warning about. I go, these guys that are your interfaith partners, both to the Jewish community, back also to Australia, I was like, they are not interfaith. This is a one-way street with them.
Dude, it's so sad. I had so many, I made so many connections with the Muslim community through my work with the Uyghurs. And I did that because I was campaigning against what the Chinese government was doing. I still believe it was disgusting genocide what the Chinese government did to the Uyghur people.
100%. I'm with you.
And I did all that stuff just out of the goodness of my heart. There was nothing in it for me because no one in Australia cares about the Uyghurs, unfortunately.
No. Half the Muslim community, the Muslim world doesn't care about the Muslim community. Many of them question it because they kind of see China as an ally for him because they're part of the axis of evil. It's crazy.
There was no protest for the Uyghurs, etc. And I did this just because I sincerely believe, and I still believe to this day, even if every single person in the Uyghur community were to hate me, I'll still say that what the Chinese government is doing is disgusting. It's a genocide. I'm against it. I'll still campaign by myself if I have to be alone.
Yeah.
You know, that's just my own heart. That's what I believe in. What's so sad though is I lost so many friends, and I lost like all these people, and people who were like completely secular. I'd break bread with them. I'd chill out with them. They were not extremists whatsoever. But then October 7. And everyone is like in lockstep. It's just crazy.
Mate, welcome to my world. That's how it's been for me forever. And I think the silver lining for me since October 7th, the only silver lining, it's not worth it, but it's a silver lining, is the fact that so many more people have woken up who finally turned to me. You know how many people have walked up to me from within the Jewish community and apologized, going, we for years believed what everyone said about you, I'm
apologizing for demonizing you as well.
Look, they weren't talking about my ex-wife. They were talking about the so-called Islamophobia, and it's like something that anyone that actually ever known me knows that I do not actually care what race, religion, background. I don't care. But
dude, my brother converted to Islam. My brother converted to Islam for like Andrew Tate reasons. You know, like that's my brother. I know.
I could deal with Islam. Did you have to go to Andrew?
you know why my brother? It was like Muhammad hijab and like Andrew Tate videos of like sneako shit. Like the dumbest reason ever. I would actually respect it more if he had like
it was real,
studied it and everything. But like it's
how old's your brother?
Oh, he's like he's 2 years younger than me. He's 23.
Oh, like, so he's so you went through your socialist stage and recovered. So for him, it's just a bit more extreme.
I'm sorry for my mom, but the thing is, like, that's my own brother. Of course, I still love my own brother. He's literally Muslim. Like, so people say I'm Islamophobic. My own brother's Muslim. You know, my own brother supports Palestine. But the thing is, the only thing that's supposedly Islamophobic about me is I'm against Hamas and Hezbollah and against Iran. Like, crazy world we're in.
Okay, so we're going to just pivot onto something completely different. It was, Benji, bring the screen up for me, mate. So I don't know if you saw this, but I wouldn't mind your reaction as I don't know if I can call you, I don't know if I can call you reasonable, but as a lefty, how can we describe him fairly, Rukshan?
I don't know.
Wait, what are we talking about now? Sorry,
about you.
Oh,
I don't know if he's a bit of a lefty, Drew. Though
this is the thing.
I wanted to say I've seen Drew write bad things about me on X as well.
When?
Once in a while, he's probably said stuff about me as well.
Really?
Back in the day.
Hold on.
No, it's alright. It's alright.
I wouldn't even say I'm lefty now. I don't know. Maybe I just really don't like the.
How do you do that search on desktop?
Oh yeah, that's harder.
You gotta go to Google and go advanced search.
Advanced search. Oh.
Nah, you don't want to do this. He's probably deleted the tweets about me.
No. Let's get it.
Like 90% of my tweets about Avi. I'm pretty sure I deleted it all, but like,
I get. Yeah, I think maybe because I'm friends with Avi, I got negative tweets, but that's just my life now.
Let's get him. Advanced search here. Let's do this live.
I hope I'm actually fucking embarrassed. I really hope I haven't said anything.
I hope you said something embarrassing.
I hope it's gone now.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh god, I hope this is like a fucking Russian roulette. I've said so much retarded shit over the years, like I can't even. Actually, that's not too bad. Actually.
He's got 2. January 28th on the National Social.
The bad stuff is gone then.
I don't know.
Go to latest.
That's it. That's all there is.
Social network one about. I actually can't remember what the context was.
Oh wait, no.
Oh, cringe.
Hold on.
Wait, can I see that? Something about trans.
What is it?
Oh wait, what was it? Oh look, I do have to say I did enjoy the Matildas. Like I didn't like. I don't like when people go. You know when people sometimes go like, "Oh, sports ball." I liked the Matildas. It was good.
But this is all very soft. I was hoping for something a bit more juicy. I was hoping you jumped on board and called him like a wedding photographer or whatever. Like
that's the greatest insult.
What was that one about? Look. I think what it was. I actually really got behind the Matildas, but not for woke reasons. It's just because I really like soccer. Like, that's the only sport.
Were they any good at soccer though?
What do you say?
No.
Were they actually any
They're
good
not
at
good.
soccer?
Look, we made
We
it to
think they're
we
good.
made
I
it
mean,
to
they're
the
good for
semi-finals. That's
Australian
pretty good.
standards.
Like, and for a moment, I was dreaming of, because what I wanted, right? I wanted them to win the World Cup, and not even for like the woke, like, you know, so girls can, you know, dream their dreams or whatever. Not even for that reason. I just was like, if they win the World Cup, it'll really boost soccer in Australia, and then we'll get more players in, and then we'll get like, because I still want Australia to have like a Messi one day. I want us to win the actual. You know,
Well, what about what about how they turned their whole thing into like a woke show?
Look, they are. I think they are pretty woke, aren't they? I don't know. What have they said? Is it just like that they always have the Aboriginal flag and stuff like that?
No, they did. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. It was a bunch of stuff, one by one they had.
Look, even that's probably one of my most woke things. I like the Matildas, but it's not really for woke reasons. Like, it's not really for like women's sport. It's just because I really
listen. I support backing Australia in every sport, always until it comes to Ray Gun.
Breakdancing.
Oh, that was pretty funny.
Until it comes to breakdancing, I think that it's patriotic to get behind your country. Like
even her, I even think even in that sense we should be patriotic. Like, we should be like Shills and just be like, no, she's actually the greatest in history.
Nah, because I think
like a lot of Australian Shills.
Nah, I can't do that. But I think that we should.
Thomas Sowell and all the Nazis, they should be like, she's a genius of the race because she's white. Like,
but the problem is like when I don't remember what it was, and maybe the comments people can help us out, but I do remember that it was like every second day there was another woke message, another thing that they were doing to push this woke, and it was like, can't you focus on just playing the soccer? Like, it doesn't need to get political. You don't need to make everything.
I get that.
And that's what bothers me about sports in general. That's why I don't think they should be doing welcome to countries and all this in sports, because I think keep it separate. Like, just play the game.
True. Except I do support it when you're like protesting like the CCP in sport, because I've done that a couple of times, and I think it's fine when I did it. But
look, I think there's a difference. I think I can't say I always agree with your tactics. I'm not the one to judge, though. I'm somebody that's known for my own exciting ways of going about things. However, I do think like protesting the CCP in some of the ways that you've done it in sports, I don't necessarily have a problem when it is against the CCP, but.
Look, even me, this crazy thing. I once protested the Wimbledon final for Peng Shuai. Crazy thing is, I've actually changed my position a bit with activism. Like, I've started to see like the Just Stop Oil people are just so annoying. So I kind of think like I shouldn't have done that extent where I actually annoyed people at the sport and stuff. Even though I really didn't like Peng Shuai. Obviously, I hated what they did to Peng Shuai, like the Chinese government.
I'm getting told not to go too hard on you because you can't bully people towards truth.
I don't know.
I'm gonna prove them wrong.
To be honest, sometimes you actually can, because like, I don't know. I think in some circumstances I actually have been bullied. It's true. But I just remembered this. Avi, you know how I was joking like Thomas Sewell should back Reagan because she's a white Australian, so it's like part of like the genius of the race and stuff.
Yeah.
I just remembered something Joel Davis said to me, because I actually did remember I had a fight with him. Like, I had like a interview with him on Elijah Schaffer's show, and I was talking to him right after, and I was like, I just said to him, like, what about like white leftist communists at the universities and stuff like that? Like, would you seriously prefer to be like chilling with like white communist kids at the university than like I don't know, like, like someone who's got like the exact same views, but who's like not white.
Brown, yeah.
And I still remember this to this day. It was just so bizarre, but it just shows how like extreme they are about race, right? He was like, he literally said to me, I'd prefer to be with a white communist than with a brown right winger. I was like, really? You'd literally prefer to be a fucking...
I reckon we should put them all on an island then. Tasmania. We should give the Nazis and the communists... We should give Tasmania to the Nazis and the communists.
Exactly.
And they'll just sort each other out.
They can work it out, yeah.
Okay, back to the screen where we were going to watch before Rukshan rudely gave us false hope.
Let's go back to journalist and senior cultural advisor for ABC News, Miriam Korowa, who's standing by with Managing Director David Anderson. Miriam.
Hello, thank you, Roz. Hello, welcome Jinjawala, in the language of my ancestors, the Bundjalung people of the far north coast of New South Wales. Thank you, Managing Director David Anderson, for joining us here on this really momentous occasion. It's really significant that we take the opportunity to step into this new space, as I would like to call it, that's been created today, where we reflect on the legacy of what has been reflected on in this review and the steps that are being outlined in terms of how we move forward as an organisation. So in recognition of that, just acknowledging we're here today on Gadigal country, paying respects to elders past and present, and just respecting the manner in which that we have this conversation. To start off with, David Anderson, for you as Managing Director, coming through this process from 15 months ago when this was announced, what are you reflecting on today as you step through the testimony of some 120 ABC staff who have shared some really deeply painful moments of their experience here?
What'd you say?
He has to do a self-confession. It's like the Mao's Cultural Revolution, like a struggle.
Yeah. Struggle session. That's what it is.
Like, it is so hard to watch. And I watched it live and I could not believe what I was watching. It was just...
Looking at the ABC.
Thanks, Miriam. Look, I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we're meeting today, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and pay my respects to elders past and present. Look, my reflection on this, Miriam, is that, look, it's an important piece of work that has taken some time to produce, and I'm very grateful to Dr. Terry Janke for the work of her and her colleagues to do it. I'm thankful for the 120 people who have contributed to this as participants. As I reflect on it, it's a disturbing report when you read the experiences of the 120 people that have given their account and the testimonies that exist within this report.
Dude, the ABC is the most woke organisation in Australia. Yeah. Where's the evil racism emanating from?
No, but what do you think they expected when they put a survey out to employees there who are all woke anyway?
Exactly.
They're going to find racism everywhere.
Exactly.
This is the thing though. Does anyone actually think that the ABC's got an internal Jim Crow regime? Like they're not segregating people at lunch counters.
It feels like that.
A woke organisation.
It's crazy.
But that introduction by that lady, I think I commented on your tweet, Avi, saying that this is kind of what we avoided by voting against the voice to Parliament. This is a kind of nonsense that we were heading down. I mean, you started with the basic welcome to country, but now you have, like Drew said, a perfect example, a struggle session where people are almost forced to hear this history and story first before even a conversation begins. Then your response, you have to respond in a certain way, and then that's when the conversation begins. This would be happening in meeting rooms and all manner of places, right? So I think we dodged a bullet
I used to take
with the voice to Parliament.
I used to take the piss that woke guys in Melbourne, to try get into the pants of woke uni girls would be before we have sex, I have to pay acknowledgement to the people of Nam and do a full-on smoke ceremony and stuff like that before. It's just so much, hey. It's just, I actually like learning about Indigenous history and names and culture and stuff, but it's just why does it have to be in every single conversation and every single the Plainlands, and you have to it's so much. It becomes a Mao struggle session.
Speaking of woke lefties that use Nam as their location for Melbourne,
so good, love it.
No, it's not just the woke left anymore. It's now even some of the jihadis are doing it.
Yeah, love it.
Speaking of which, did you get a concerns notice by Hashtag?
Of course. Did you?
Oh, you got one? No, I worked hard.
I actually got one, and then what's really sad for Hashtag is Arnold Bloch-Leibler, which is the center of all Zionist evil in Australia, the planetary spaceship of Zion.
I think they're a group that's learning because they're part of the Jews that kind of really pushes the woke thing. But
what I was going to say though is unfortunately for Hashtag, Jeremy Lively, because he just followed me on Twitter and just liked some of my stuff, and he was like, "I'll help you," and they just wrote a letter back to him pro bono for free. And then Hashtag just dropped it so much like a hot potato because he can't fight So I had to say thank you to the Zionist conspiracy for helping me in that one. Because, man, I don't know what I was going to fucking do. What did Hashtag expect, man? I'm like 25 years old. I'm still doing like law school. I've got no money at all. Like, what the fuck's he going to do? He put in his letter, like, going like, oh, I need $5,000 for damages, Drew. It's like, where the fuck are you going to get that? I don't even have $5,000, cunt. Like,
did he? So he threatened you and he told you you wanted $5,000 for damages.
Yeah. He even got some. He even got this like unhinged. You know how I've got the Ukraine flag in my Instagram? I think he thought that I was Ukrainian. So he got like one of his like Ukrainian friends to message me and like started writing to me in Ukrainian. I'm like, bro, I don't speak Ukrainian. And then I started talking to this guy and then he's like, and then like, he's just like, bro, really, you don't understand. Hash is such a good guy, man. You just got to talk to him. He's got so much money. He can help you out. Do a podcast with him. I swear, man, it actually sounded like he was trying to like bribe me. He was like, Hash is such a wealthy guy. You got to be his friend. He sees that you've had trouble. You've just got to talk to him, man. Like he has a lot of sympathy for Ukraine. I'm like, what the fuck? And then he goes, listen, he's willing to make a deal. If you just pay like $5,000, I think you guys can then just bury the hatchet. And bro, he's got so much money. He'll help you in the future. I'm like, I don't want fucking Hashtag's money, cunt. Like, like what the fuck? Oh, that's a fucking burger shop. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, what the fuck? Like, suddenly I'm gonna start like praising Hamas because like Hashtag smuggles me fucking burger shop money. I don't give a fuck.
You should have just said the Zionists pay better. The Zionists have a lot more money. Why would I go down a level? He actually owns a few things. He is entrepreneurial, money, but he's such a clown. And it's funny that he offered you to have a podcast. When he told the Herald Sun that he wanted to fight me, yeah, there's a whole article on there. He wanted to box me. I'm like,
I did find that out.
I remember that now.
I'll get it. Oh no, because this computer doesn't have it. He wanted to fight me, and then I said, isn't it typical that, you know, the pro-Palestinian guy who is so peaceful, he wants his first reaction to a political disagreement is fighting. I go, I'm happy to have a conversation. I offered him to, debate the issues. Let's talk about the issues. He couldn't run. You know, like, I'm not a great debater by any stretch of, I love watching people like especially on issues like Israel. I love watching people like Destiny, right? I do not subscribe to much of Destiny's politics, and it's funny because somebody like Destiny makes me think about issues because I look at Destiny when I watch him prosecute the Israel debate, the case for Israel. I think he does it so well. But then I wonder, like, because I see him like prosecuting other cases. I don't think he's a naturally skilled debater. But then when I watch him do, prosecuting, the Trump Harris or whatever.
Look, he went too far when he was he like sort of trolling over Trump's assassination attempt. I like a lot of Destiny stuff, but that was too far. But yeah.
But all of that, I see I so easily see the flaws in some of his argument, and I'm thinking, is it just confirmation bias? Like when I watch him do Israel, is it that he's actually he's that good in prosecuting the case for Israel, or is it just that? I love that somebody that's not Jewish, has no skin in the game, is actually a lefty, is actually standing up and making some points. But
honestly, I'm basically, my position on foreign policy is like very similar to Destiny's. I actually was going to go on a show a couple months ago, but I couldn't get over to America. But I love his stuff when it comes to like.
How did you connect with him?
I think it was just because like, I think a lot of his fans follow me and stuff, and he's retweeted me a couple times. And look, there's very few people in that sort of political position where it's like, look, at the end of the day, we're still kind of like moderate left type thing.
Yeah.
We're like we hate communism and stuff like that. There's very few of us, So I kind of like started sharing his stuff and everything.
Yeah. Look, it's funny because for years, my younger brother, who's really,
you have like 20 siblings or something, right?
Yeah, so I have a younger brother that's like really in tune with like the culture wars and following what's going on. He's probably he's a massive Destiny fan. So I think he's mostly more aligned there, right? But for years he's been telling me to watch Destiny, and I was like, man, I can't. Like his voice just annoyed me, and it just was not issues that I cared about enough when he was talking. Because a lot of American politics, I couldn't care that much to be able to watch he streams literally for hours, but his debating style is amazing. And when I saw him, when he started like debating on Israel and debating the biggest names, you know, the pro-Palestinian, I was like,
it was so good. His mum with Norm, that guy.
Like, if you watch any of his debates in Israel, I've never seen him lose one. And I try to sit back and watch it like, I try to take a position that's like, objective, like not like how would I judge this if I didn't really care? It's a bit hard, but I try to do it with him on that just because of those issues. But Rukshan, you haven't said much tonight.
I've just been reading the comments. The comments are really funny. I hope at the end of this show we put some up.
Yeah, we'll do 5 minutes.
There's one from. I'll just read this one.
Which one?
From E Enco. If you can put that one up.
How far back is it? Is it far?
It says Avi, take Drew out for a half kilo steak. The guy looks way too soy infused. So maybe you
I had a steak today. I literally had a steak. You know what? One of the reasons I was like literally late to the show was I was having a steak with my dad right before. But one thing, Avi, you know when you speak about like your sibling who had sort of slightly different political views and was like telling you to get onto Destiny, you know that was literally my mum and Avi. Like, so when I used to fight with Avi, she was like, "Why are you doing that? He's so good on COVID. He's good. He's fighting the New World Order and stuff." And I was like, okay. Like at that time, I was really way more left, and I was like, "No, mum, no, mum." And then like she kept on bugging me, like, you gotta like stop attacking Avi. You gotta be friendlier to Avi. And then like eventually it was like October 7 happened, and like it just happened naturally. And my mum was so happy. I think she's traveling right now, but she's gonna try and watch the show later. She loves Avi for some reason.
She'll have a laugh. Hi, mum.
My mum was huge when it came to COVID. I think COVID was like my mum's political awakening because she's Greek. And
a lot of people. I think a lot of people, and I actually blame COVID and the response to COVID for a lot of what's transpired since then. So it woke people up, and people distrust government and distrust anything the establishment's trying to tell you. So now people don't believe anything. So if the narrative is, we need to get behind Ukraine, everybody's on Russia. Or that big, a lot of people are suddenly just, I'm not going. They support Israel.
I think it's just like, you see that meme where it's like the current thing and it's the person with the 50 jabs in their arm and Ukraine. You know what the funny thing is? Like, Ukraine had a really low vaccine acceptance rate. Like Ukrainians were like never like COVID people, but it's funny. Yeah.
While we got, so guys, start posting some questions in the or comments that you want up. We'll spend the next 5 minutes. Any questions you want to put to anyone on the panel, or if you just want to tell Rukshan to shut up because he's been talking too much this episode, just let us know and we'll put up on the screen.
Rukshan. It's very hard when you got Avi and Drew in the same show.
Yeah, man. So I'm not even trying.
I want to make 2 points. Firstly, Benji's looking at me. It was his birthday last week. Say happy birthday to Benji.
Happy birthday,
Benji.
Again.
Benji really didn't want this to happen. So Benji's a Hong Konger. Benji I met. So he's been like he's been working with us for like 5 years. We're going to get a camera on him one day, but we're nervous because Benji often comes to these shows naked. And but Benji, the socialists tried to kick me out of one of the Hong Kong protests. They were probably your fans at the time.
Oh, probably, yeah.
And they tried to kick me. And Benji came and defended me and went on a massive rampage to them about socialism being a precursor to communism. And I had him on camera. It was like the most amazing thing. And he was a photography student at the time. And then we took him on, and the poor guy's he's literally been to war and back. On October 10, he was on the Gaza border with me ducking from missiles. Yeah.
How was he there?
What do you mean? No, we both flew there. We flew there.
Right. Yeah. When did you go again, Avi?
We got there on October 10. So.
Holy shit! Wow. Nice.
But Benji.
Did you see like the Nova Festival side and stuff like that?
Yeah, we went there. We went right up. Like we were right there. There was still like suicide drones literally chasing us. And we were running from suicide drones. I just hid behind Benji. Anyway, but Benji was he was very suspicious of us having you on because Benji was like, no, like even back then, he's like, nah, even the Hong Kongers are turning against him. Benji, do you feel better about Drew now? No. He says no.
No. Wait, still no.
Still no. Why not? Why not?
I guess I probably just have a distrust of left-leaning people in general.
He just has a distrust for left-leaning people in general.
I'm not even, bro. I'm barely left-leaning. Like, what?
But okay. Hold on, Benji. So let's say scale 1 to 10. Remember Drew back during the Hong Kong days where he was having those crazy schizo rants about the best person on the planet? To now, has he improved on the scale?
Definitely.
He's improved. So what number, 1 to 10, where was he then? 1 being like...
Yeah, no, I'll say 3.
He was 3 back then. Oh, you even gave him 2 points?
Actually, I'd say 3 back then too.
Okay, we're not asking you, Drew. So he was 3 back then.
Now 6.
Now he's 6. So he's doubled. What's he got to do to get to like 9?
Good question. I don't know.
Like suck off Trump or something.
Probably on that line, yeah.
He says yes. So he says those terms are acceptable.
Like do the Laura Loomer basically to Trump.
Ask him about
Oh, actually, that's an interesting.
Ask him about what?
the Hong Kong community and like how do you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. He does make a good point. He wanted me to ask you about the Hong Kong community with what's going on today. Because I think, Benji, you told me you think that a lot of the Hong Kongers are kind of left-leaning, and for some reason that
Especially the academics.
so they're identifying with the support of the pro-Palestine. Is that right? That's what he says. Is that true?
I don't even know, but what I'd say obviously is like those like Hong Kongers who are socialists or whatever. I now see it like with the benefit of like 5 years hindsight. I see that as basically Drew was harassing a Muslim booth guy with Australian Liberty Alliance shirt on 10 years ago. What the fuck? I don't even know what that's about. But what I was going to say is I actually think
they're talking about me. I don't know why they're saying Drew.
Whatever. I don't know that, but what I was going to say is like I actually think like Hong Kongers who are like socialists, they're almost like JVP people, you know. That's kind of how I see it now with 5 years hindsight. Like, why would we be socialists when like that's literally the fucking ideology that all the social? This is the thing. I think I tried so hard to like make like a sort of like left position on Hong Kong, but the left just fucking hates it. They see the Hong Kongers. They look at China. China has the red flag with the stars on it, and they're like, okay, we're on China's side. There's nothing you can do. Yeah. They've got the left wing at stake.
But it's weird for Hong Kongers to take a left position. I don't know. Like China is really behind. You know, they're part of the Axis. So it's weird to think like a Hong Konger wanting to side with the side. I get it. They look at Israel. So I know. Yeah. This is the problem with the left's way of looking at the world. You know, there's oppressed and oppressor. And so they feel like they're the oppressed as Hong Kong and the oppressor is China. But then when you apply that to Israel, Palestine, they're applying the same thing. They're like, oh, the oppressor must be Israel and the oppressor the Palestine.
It doesn't even apply because if you actually just know the history of Israel, like when you realize that more than half of Israelis are Mizrahi Jews, like that's your family, right, Avi? Are you actually from Yemen?
My family's from Yemen. They had to escape. Yeah, exactly. There's literally no Yemens left. There's no Yemen Jews. There was a massive Yemen Jewish community.
It's gone. It's completely gone. Every single Arab country basically ethnically cleansed the Jews. And so when you actually know that history, when you're not like a fucking mentally ill, stupid lefty, and you think like, oh, Israel's like a white settler colonial state. When you actually know the history and you're like, oh shit, more than half of Israeli Jews are actually victims of ethnic cleansing from the Arab world. That was probably the thing that woke me up the most to it. Because when I knew that fact that more than half of Israeli Jews literally they had other countries and they were persecuted and purged from them because they're Jewish. I'm like, how can I see it as a settler colonial issue?
There was a Jewish Nakba at the same time as
there was.
So that's why I say to you, like,
and there was actually something even worse than the Nakba as well. Roughly the same historical time period as well. It's called the Holocaust, and all these people hate the fact that the Holocaust. They hate recognizing it. They hate talking about it. They talk about it, they're like, oh, that was what the Europeans did. We Middle Easterners, we were so nice to the Jews. The Jews were always happy under us as dhimmis. That's what they always say. It's so dumb. And they get pissed off when people bring up the Holocaust.
It is very true. Let me ask you, I know...
Have you seen that, Avi? Have you seen these people, like, they always say, like, the Nakba was equivalent to the Holocaust or even worse.
They tie everything to they do that about everything, but then they ignore... That's what I'm saying to you. Like, when I said to you earlier, I can understand the other realities, and two things can be true at the same time. But if you're only going to live in historical, historical points in time, then where do you stop? Like that argument, even when they talk about the Palestinians, that's the thing. When I talk to a lefty that tells me, oh, but the Palestinians are the indigenous people of the land, you're a colonizer, blah blah blah, you're European colonizer. I'm like, well, actually, I'm from Yemen. Forget about all that for a second. If we're going back in time, you're saying they're indigenous. So why are you stopping history to 1900 or whatever, wherever you think that they?
Yeah.
Why don't you go back 3,000 years? Because really, you're the same person that makes the argument that Aboriginal people in Australia have 65,000 years of history, and that's why they're indigenous to this land. That's why we owe them everything. So why do you care? Why are you suddenly dismissing 3,000 years of Jewish history?
Did you see Nasser Mashni, like literally the head of the Palestine movement in Australia? He had this really schizo racist line where he was like, you can tell we're indigenous to the land because of our skin.
Yeah.
These Jews don't have the right skin for the land. They get burned. Like, he was going fucking crazy.
I know.
Can you imagine just saying that? Imagine it running through your mind like, you don't have the skin for the land. It sounded like a fucking Nazi argument.
But again, he's talking, and the funny thing is, like, even with that racist, blatantly racist position and argument, he's still talking about the minority of Israel. He's talking about the minority, not the majority. The majority do have brown skin, much browner than his.
They just pretend that Mizrahi Jews like literally just don't exist. That's literally all it is. They just think it doesn't exist.
All right, guys, add some questions in there while I ask the last things from Drew. Drew, we want to know America. Yeah, what did you think about the debate? What do you think about the debate? The last recent. Yep.
The Waltz JD Vance one. Look, I actually didn't watch the whole thing, but I did hear a lot of people say that that Waltz lost. And look, like I'm more on the.
Is that hard for you to? Is that hard for you to swallow? You're like the New York Times.
Look, I try to be objective, right? Like, even though I'm more lean to the Democrats, I can criticize the Democrats. Like, I can criticize the fact that they're wrong on Iran, right? And I can admit when they failed. Like, apparently, look, from everything I saw, everyone was saying that Waltz was a bit stiff in the debate and stuff like that. It happens, you know. It happens. Like, I'm not gonna like pretend that like, you know, Waltz is God or whatever. Like, I don't think people should like worship parties like that.
So okay, you're obviously, I've seen. I don't know if your position's changing, but you want Harris.
Look. At the end of the day, at this point in time, I still support Kamala Harris. The main reason is because I don't trust Trump on the Western alliances. I also just don't trust him when it comes to American democracy. Like, I think he lied about a lot of the stuff like January 6th, things like that. That's my current position. But look, my parents are Trump supporters. So I'm not going to demonize Trump supporters. Like, I'm surrounded by conservatives my entire life. Like, my whole family were always conservative. Like, so I'm not going to, I've never had the luxury to be one of those like woke lefties who are like, every single Trump supporter is evil. Like, that's literally my mom and my dad. I love my mom and my dad. I love my Bapu and Yaya who like Trump. What can I do?
My wife bought me that.
Oh, right. I didn't see that. Yeah.
So,
look, I can admit something. Like, I think Trump's funny. Like, I'll admit that, you know, like, he's a funny guy. He's entertaining.
Are you scared of a Trump? Who do you think is going to win first then?
Look, I actually don't know. Honestly, it is very, very close. And I try and look at the polls, and honestly, like, one day the polls are saying Trump's going to win, the next day it says that Kamala's going to win. I actually don't know. I think it will come down like really, really close. What was the other thing? Like,
Rukshan, who do you think is going to win, Rukshan?
I feel like it's 2016. I feel like Trump will win.
Yeah, I think he's going to win by a mile.
We'll see.
Even though the media is trying very hard to portray a scenario where it is Kamala that's kind of got the support in where she needs to have support.
But now they're really struggling when they're starting to say, oh, it's very close.
Yeah, look, but Drew, what do you think Trump lied about when it comes to the so-called insurrection?
Look, the main thing I was going to say, and this is actually like I was watching Destiny. He makes a pretty compelling argument. Like, when it comes to, for example, the Georgia issue, when the state of Georgia, I listened to the phone call and he goes like, "Find me the extra 10,000 votes," and like, it doesn't sound good to me. It sounds like he's putting pressure. I honestly think like.
I think that was just his manner. That was just his manner of speaking.
Look.
I know you know what? I think he's more immature in that sense about that kind of stuff than he is a threat. He was not a threat on the day. He was tweeting against. Like, I watched the Destiny stuff on it as well.
You know what I actually say? It's actually not necessarily Trump at this point that I'm like worried about. It's more the stuff. It's more the people who sort of like try and latch onto him. So it's like the people like Tucker, for example. Like Tucker latches onto the Trump campaign and he makes himself like the biggest spokesperson and everything. And then Tucker has that guy on the other day where he's like, Churchill's the real villain of World War II. Like that's the shit I just don't.
But that's not Trump's fault. That's not Trump's fault.
I know it's not necessarily Trump's fault. I'm just saying, like, probably the thing that makes me the most worried is just when you get people like that who latch onto the campaign and stuff.
I don't get. You can't. That can't be a reason why not to like Trump. What policies of Trump don't you like?
Look, there are some policies I actually agree with. He was right when it came to trade with China. I completely agree with that now. When it comes to stuff like, I don't know, like he talks about getting rid of the Affordable Care Act. So for me, it's actually not so much like, you get the standard lefty criticisms of Trump where it's like, oh, he's a meanie and he's sexist and stuff. For me, it's actually more stuff like, I disagree when he talks about like, we're going to get rid of Obamacare because look, we have universal healthcare in Australia. We have public healthcare. I like the fact that if I get sick, I'm not going to die. Like I know that I'm not going to get bankrupted, Like, I like that fact. I think there should be a bit of like a safety net. I love capitalism. I'm completely against communism and socialism, but I think
I don't think it's fair to compare Australia to America. Australia, which is an island, it's 30 million to 10 times the size, plus many more illegals. Like,
look, I get you. It's obviously a different system, and I can't go in and tell them like change your entire system, etc. Like. Stuff like that though, like having grown up in Australia where we do have like a nice public safety net where it's like if you get sick, if you get cancer, I know that I'm not going to go bankrupt, or I know like my mum's not going to go bankrupt. I like that. I think unfortunately one of the problems with America is like I love America. Obviously I love America because I've got like the American flag on my boat and everything, but I think probably one of the biggest problems is like they've probably got too much of a sort of like dog eat dog individualistic. Like, we have individualism in Australia, but I don't think it's as dog-eat-dog sometimes.
A lot of people are saying you've never looked into Obamacare. I don't know enough. I'm not going to debate you on Obamacare because I don't know enough about Obamacare. If it's anything, if it's anything like Obama himself, it was probably very polished in the way it was presented, but there was no meat on the bone.
Look, this is the thing, right? The main feature of the Obamacare Affordable Care Act was that if you've got a pre-existing health condition, so say you've got diabetes or something like that, or say you've got like a long-term pre-existing condition, like the insurance company can't just say, we're not going to give you coverage. And I like that because if someone is sick, like I think it's pretty unfair for a society to be like, we're not going to help you at all. So, but it's interesting because like Trump's a bit, this is kind of one of Trump's problems. Like he can sometimes go, he can say both things at the same time. So he's said before, I'm going to get rid of Obamacare, but at the same time, I don't want to get rid of the pre-existing care condition. And it's like, okay, like, I don't know. It's one of those Trump things.
So you're saying the one policy you don't like about Trump, he doesn't actually have. Got it. So what's another policy? What's another policy? An actual policy, not personality.
Avi, not at the same time though. He goes, okay, I'm not going to get rid of like the main part of Obamacare, but I'm going to get rid of Obamacare. Like it doesn't really make sense, And they came pretty close to it. Like
okay, so we got past it. That's not actually one that you don't like because
but let me
just
say
choose the one you like of that one and go with that.
But the one thing though, they did actually come down to it. So I think it was 2018. It was in the first Trump term. Like remember when John McCain like did the thumbs down. Remember that famous vote? It literally came down to like one vote whether they were going to get rid of Obamacare. So it came pretty close. Like if Trump had won on that one, there would have been like 20 million people who wouldn't have got their healthcare. So it's more stuff like that, like concrete stuff where I'm like, I don't think it's right that like if you're sick, you've got a pre-existing condition, you can't get coverage. I grew up in a society that has public healthcare. I support that sort of stuff,
Everyone's making fun of you now. I think people liked you until you started talking shit about Trump. So give us, now that we know that you don't know nothing about Obamacare.
Look. I think people are obviously going to get mad at me for not fully supporting Trump. Listen, I've come a long way in the past 5 years from being so you can't expect me to.
I'll make it easier for you. What do you like about Harris? You're supporting Harris. What is it that you like about Harris that she's done success? What has she done well in the last 4 years?
Okay, look, firstly, part of the problem is like vice president. The vice president actually doesn't have any constitutional power. So it's hard when you're like.
But Biden wasn't even there, so it was all her.
Okay, two things that I do agree with Biden on, right? One was one's Ukraine. Like I am fearful that if Trump had been in, he might have let Putin just take it. The second thing is
how do you explain the 4 years before where Putin didn't do anything? Why do you think Putin?
Okay.
Why do you think Putin?
And what happened with Obama?
And
Obama was bad on Russia. I will actually say that Obama was really bad.
But why? Explain to me, because that's just such a ridiculous argument. Explain to me how, in Trump era, because I can explain it. In Trump era, nothing. Putin didn't do anything. Hamas didn't do anything. None of these wars happened during Trump. Why? I'll give you a hint. He's a scary orange. I'll show you him.
Look. I know you say that, but scary. I remember prior to COVID, like he was coming pretty close to a big deal with Xi. So I still remember this, right? During the Hong Kong protest era, there was a couple of weeks where Trump was like, "I agree, they're rights. You just got to stop them." And it was at the time he was trying to do a big trade deal with Xi. So my big worry was like, obviously COVID came along and then blew up the relationship with China. But my worry was there was a point where he was talking like, I'm going to make a big deal with Xi.
You can't give us in an argument against Trump. You can't say, theoretical what could have happened. Under Trump, this is what happened. We didn't have these wars. We didn't have this situation. If you're talking about Russia, you were speaking about Russia, and then you're saying you liked Biden on Russia. Dude, the only reason why we're in this situation is that Putin knew that Biden wasn't going to do shit but talk tough. That's it. And he threw a lot of money after the fact. You would have Americans would be happy because they would have the money in their pocket, and Ukraine would have been happy because Putin wouldn't have dared.
Look, it's tough because one of the reasons why, like, there's a lot of analysts who look at the Ukraine thing, right?
Yeah, well, the same analysts said that Clinton was going to win.
No, what I was going to say.
I'll let you talk.
Let me quickly say, and unfortunately, I probably have to go soon because
we all have to go. That old excuse. As soon as it starts getting tough, he's going.
No, literally, we can have a full other podcast where we can talk just Trump, the whole thing. It's just that, like, my girlfriend's getting a bit mad at me. I told her that I'd end the show a little bit earlier. It's kept on going. But look, with the Ukraine invasion, right? One of the reasons why it happened, people say that, like, Putin withdrew into his bunker during COVID, and he was in the Kremlin archives and stuff, and he was just like stewing. He was in isolation. He was stewing on his obsession.
You're telling me Putin was so scared of COVID that he didn't invade Ukraine? Are you listening to yourself?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, so during COVID, so you've heard that stuff, right? Where like Putin wouldn't meet with anyone during COVID. He was like a massive germ freak. Like he wouldn't meet with anyone under COVID conditions.
Fine.
Like remember when Macron went to Russia just prior to the war, and he forced Macron to sit on a table that was 30 meters long.
To be fair, I would do that today.
Yeah. Anyway, so Putin had like a big sort of COVID thing. He was really weird about COVID. Anyway, what a lot of analysts say is Putin went crazy during COVID. He was sitting in the Kremlin. He was in a bunker by himself. He was just stewing on Ukraine, obsessing over Ukraine, and people say that's partly why he did it, because he lost touch of reality. He was sitting in a bunker for 2 years during COVID, just reading about Ukraine the whole time and looking at the old maps. And remember during his Tucker Carlson interview,
do you actually believe what you're saying?
Okay. Here's an interesting factor, right? Remember watching the Tucker Carlson interview where he goes, remember that weird part where he goes to Tucker, I want you to have this map. And Tucker's like, oh, I don't know. And even Tucker thought it was weird. And like, he was like forcing Tucker to like stop and look at the map and stuff. And he's bringing the stuff out of the archive. Bro, Putin sat for 2 years, like full on autist mode, just obsessing over like old maps with Ukraine. He went really crazy during COVID. That's what a lot of experts on the Kremlin think. And I honestly think it's not even necessarily like about Trump or Biden. I honestly think he was sitting there. Putin went crazy over that 2 years where he was just stewing.
Look, it is very convenient for somebody that wants to give credit to Biden that the explanation as to why Putin invaded under Biden was just because he went batshit crazy. When the facts are the facts, It doesn't matter how crazy he went. He wasn't going to go crazy enough to do it under Trump's watch. That's it. And you can't argue it because it hasn't happened. So it didn't happen during Trump's period. A lot of people were scared. You know, the media and the establishment, they created this narrative that Trump is the most divisive and dangerous president. And, you know, they used things like the fact that he went to North Korea and that he was as evidence that he was that dangerous. It's like he was actually playing politics better than anyone. He was
I want to say, I see a comment here where someone points out that Putin took Crimea under Obama. And that's actually a good point. Like, look, I have to say, and I'm someone who's like more leaning to the Democrats. I have to say, Obama was so bad on Russia. Obama was so bad on Russia. And he basically appeased Putin. Unfortunately, it's true.
All right, we're gonna have to wrap it up because we do not. Wait, hold on. But before you go, does your girlfriend know that you're a Harris supporter?
My girlfriend's more lefty than me. She's probably upset that I'm on Avi and Minnie's show. I think she thinks I've gone too right wing lately. But
you know what we should do? We should introduce her to Benji. They can fight it out, and maybe both of them will end up somewhere in the center, and then you and me will be okay.
We'll see. It's interesting. Look, it's good talk. And look, I swear, I'm not actually running away from the Trump thing. It's 9:53.
We're just fucking around. Listen, I give you credit because when I asked you to come on the show, you straight away said yes. There was no dramas, and I'm just mucking around.
And I know, and I will say as well, I'm actually happy to do like a full show where we like debate this stuff about, because then I can show everyone I'm not on a full unity ticket with Avi and Minnie. I'm not fully the evil far right or whatever. I still have some of my lefty moments. So
I just want to let you know, Drew, your Zionist cut for this month has been divided. You're only getting 50% of your pay this month for that derogatory terminology against Avi and Minnie. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, remember the opposition.show if you want to catch up. If you're interested in what Rukshan has to say about anything, you probably want to skip this episode.
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining in for this episode. As you saw, thanks, Drew. I was just sitting there listening in. But look, it was very intriguing.
He just jumped off. Look, he's looking.
He just jumped off.
He left.
I think his girlfriend just turned the computer off.
She turned the computer off. She threw it at him. It was nice. It was nice knowing him while he was.
But I think that was a very interesting conversation, and I don't mind. I don't mind being the third wheel when you're having these, things that you guys really care about talking about, and just listening in and providing some perspective here and there. That's all right. I was just chilling out.
I feel like Benji should just like cut up some reels making fun of his whole Trump part. You should do that. Just boom. Benji, you got that? All right, guys, thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you had as much fun as Rukshan, who basically did nothing. I managed all the comments, plus I ran the conversation. God bless America.
See you guys.